Your life is over.
And now they have the microphone. What could go wrong?
Nobody messes up. You understand me? Don't mess up.
Adam Copeland.
You wanted some sort of like hard-hitting Bob Lee journalism. You came to the wrong place.
Derek Papa.
Oh, boy. Okay.
It's getting hot. Is it getting hot there?
That's even worse.
How are we feeling? It's getting hot.
Oh, boy.
And Tim Webb.
Mankini, yes or no?
59.
We go with this, Tim.
It's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it.
Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous.
Welcome to Dirty Work. KNBR 104.5 and 680. The sports leader.
It's Dirty Work on a Wednesday evening, late afternoon.
This very evening.
Adam Copeland, D-Pop, Tim Webb with you. His ass has been in the chair. He's running the Giants game. Giants lose 8-7.
So close.
What a ball game, to quote FP Santangelo.
It got interesting at the end.
Yeah, it did get interesting, and did have a little bit of everything in it. Some ejections. Thought it was pretty funny. Torey Lovullo gets ejected from the game. And
You're out of here? Oh, I'm out of here? Well, you're out of here.
I'm out of order. You're out of order. He did the thing where, remember Travis...
This whole stadium's out of order.
Remember Travis Kelce years ago? Might have gotten ejected from a game win. He definitely got flagged. He got called for a penalty in the secondary, and the ref then looked right at him, and he threw the flag out of his belt, and then Travis Kelce grabbed his towel out of his waist and threw the flag into the air. I think he got another penalty. He might have got, I don't know if he got ejected for it, but he got a 15-yard unsportsmanlike for sure for that moment, for using a prop to mock an official. But anyway, Giants end up losing 2-3 to the Arizona Diamondbacks after they win last night. Home run by Jung-Hoo Lee today. Home run last night by him.
Offensive explosion last night.
Yeah, it was nice last night. Christian Koss, his first big league home run. A grand slam last night to give the Giants
Going full
lead.
Crawford, huh?
I would say that today all sights turn to Derek's favorite thing, anything offseason NFL.
Damn right.
That's where we are today. We're 20 minutes away.
We're talking about games that will be 5 months from now.
So we got the Giants losing 2-3. We could be talking about that. We got the Warriors playing tonight. I got to tell you ready for this? I forgot they played tonight.
I know.
That's how cooked I feel like they are.
Yeah.
That's how,
And that news today.
The Warrior fans are going to tell us, you guys got to be positive. It ain't my problem. It's not my fault the Dubs are playing as poorly as they are with no offense without Steph Curry.
I mean, who you look at to? I mean, I guess if Buddy Hield has a crazy game tonight, but the cherry on top today is, well, Steph Curry's being reevaluated on Sunday, and he may come back for Game 6. I don't know if we'll get to that.
That ain't no cherry. That's nothing. That's nothing. We'll be reevaluated on Sunday. Will they still be playing basketball Sunday is the question. Let's cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. There's no logical reason in my mind they win tonight. It's just a matter of, boy, can enough guys do enough stuff that we haven't seen anybody do as a full unit without Steph Curry? My answer is, even if they do, how much confidence do I have? It's not a lot.
No, me too. And my only hope is that Minnesota plays with their food and they just don't know how to close out a series. That's my only hope, and maybe Buddy Hield goes off.
And they know what's looming. They know if they don't close it out, what's coming.
No, I know.
Potentially.
But they're, they could be kind of lax in the series a little bit. They kind of fool around in the first half, and they turn it on with their threes. But you need Buddy Hield to have an amazing game. I would even consider maybe starting Kuminga tonight. I know that sounds crazy, but I know. But at this point,
they've lost me. The Warriors have my interest has dwindled on the Dubs because of their ineffectiveness without Steph Curry.
Okay, then let me ask you this about the Giants. Is it time to maybe have Jordan Hicks go to the bullpen?
Yes. It's definitely time to start looking at other starting pitcher options. I mean, how many of the last handful of starts that he's made would they have either not been down before they came back and won it, or just won the game outright had he not been on the field? Now, I know that Hayden Birdsong came in and gave up 2 home runs today. Kettle Marte got another one.
I would still consider him, though.
I'd still consider Birdsong. I'd consider Kyle Harrison, who pitched pretty well and threw last night in relief of Robbie Ray.
We're at the quarter pole. He's got a 6.5 ERA. I mean,
we're at the quarter. That's it for Tim. We're at the quarter pole.
We're at the quarter pole.
6.5 ERA. That's what it is.
Well, not only that, in the first inning, what is he? 12.82 in the first inning?
The ERA in the first is atrocious.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of it. Is just, that's a weird note and a weird number for him, but they were down 3-0 before we batted an eye, it looked like, yesterday. And then they were down again early in this one. They fell down 3-0 before we batted an eye. Yesterday was about Robbie Ray giving up 5 knocks in the second inning.
Totally, and Robbie Ray's been great.
And he battled through the 6th.
But let's be real. Jordan Hicks, at this point, I think we all knew that at one point this season he was going to be the odd man out. It was kind of weird. I thought the whole experiment last year with Farhan making him a starter was kind of weird, and then Bob just went with it for this season. But yeah, I think it's time that we look at somebody else, maybe Kyle Harrison. I'm leaning more Birdsong, but
I kind of like leaving Birdsong where he's at because I kind of like what he's been able to do for the Giants in being a stretch guy. Tim thinks you just go righty for righty, and I go, doesn't really matter to me. I think they really want both these guys to be starters in general in the long haul, and maybe the better option to get a guy in there. You know that Birdsong is going to be your long relief guy, going to pitch 2 to 3 innings at a time. Maybe let Harrison go out there and be the guy.
But which guy do you have more confidence in right now?
Well, we've seen more of Birdsong this year. So Birdsong I'm more confident in, but he didn't have a great outing today. Anyway, we can talk more about this. Warriors play tonight. 6:30 is when they tip off tonight for Game 5. And if they survive, then Steph Curry will be reevaluated on Saturday. We do have to let you know real quick, we are giving away tickets again today. We're only with you till 6 o'clock. And if you hear the cue to call between now and 6 o'clock, you'll win tickets to go see, where'd my paper go? Oh, there it is. You'll win tickets to go see Tom Papa at the Masonic. Comedian Tom Papa coming October 4th of this year. Tune in between now and 6 o'clock. We'll give you the cue to call. Caller 10 to the studio at 415-896-KNBR. Wins those tickets furnished by Live Nation. Get the rules at knbr.com. Tim, what's our cue to call?
San Francisco.
There you go. There's a Papa for you.
Seem appropriate?
San Francisco.
I didn't say that.
Francisco.
You guys did that with your, your buffoonery and your wee way of editing audio. I never said that.
With your AI, I've never said anything foolish. Anyway, you hear that between now and 6 o'clock.
Your damn AI.
415-896-KNBR. You win those tickets to go see Tom Papa in San Francisco at the Masonic. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back, get a little bit more on the Giants, maybe a little bit more on the schedule release, which is right around the corner. We're 17 minutes from the release of the NFL schedule for the 2025 NFL season. Then Matt Mayoko is going to join us, our NBC Sports Bay Area 49ers insider. He joins us at 5:30. It's Dirty Works, the greatest show in America on a Wednesday. Schedule release at 5 o'clock, only here on the Sports Leader.
Now, from the
Well, the NFL schedule releases tonight, 5 p.m. Keep it locked right here on Dirty Work for all the details. And check out Diners Nightly immediately following with Larry Krueger as he gives his oh-so-Krug breakdown of the whole shebang right here on KNBR, the Krug Leader.
What's going on, everybody? Adam Copeland here. My good friend Steve Moskowitz hanging out on the line. Steve, everybody's got tax questions, especially if they get a bill and they can't pay their taxes. What do you do if you cannot pay your taxes?
You call us, and you may not even owe those taxes. For example, a lot of people just don't file their taxes. So there's two punishments. There's a criminal punishment, and there's also a civil punishment. The civil punishment is something called an SFR, substitute for a return. So the government just makes something up. And oftentimes I've seen them way more than the person really owes. So we have to get those canceled. And then we go ahead and do the actual return. We go back as far as we have to. And then we go and we strike a deal for you. And most importantly, we give you back your life. That's what we want to do. Give you back a normal life. Don't let this ruin your life, your marriage, your business. There's so many good solutions. We're familiar with all of them. We have a free consultation. We'll explain everything to you. And then if you want us to, we'll do everything for you. You don't have to have anything to do with the IRS. The only thing you can look forward to is just enjoying a normal life. That's what we're going to give for you. Just give us a call and say, hey, Steve, take care of me.
Steve Moskowitz can help. Give him a call, 1-888-TAX-DEAL, or you can find him online at moskowitzllp.com.
Now, back to Dirty Work. Adam Copeland and Derek Papa on KNBR 104.5 and 680 AM. The sports leader.
Dirty Work is sponsored by Redwood Credit Union. Whether you're dreaming of a new home, planning your children's future, or growing your business, Redwood Credit Union is a financial partner that feels like home. Learn more at redwoodcu.org. Federally insured by the NCUA. Adam Copeland, D-Pop, Tim Webb with you on a Wednesday afternoon. Matt Mayoko, our 49ers NBC Sports Bay Area, our insider from NBC Sports Bay Area, covers the 49ers. He joins us at 5:30. The schedule release for the NFL comes out at 5 o'clock. I mean, I get fired up for this because it tells me my schedule for weekends for the remainder of the calendar year. Tim and I love to see when this thing comes out. Also, 49er fans, I know you're starting to look at what this thing could look like after the draft is now complete. The last thing we're really waiting on is a contract for Brock Purdy. Yep. George Kittle got his contract. I assume at some point we'll hear something about Fred Warner getting a deal worked out.
Possibly this summer, yeah.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is the one that everybody's waiting on, but also there's been a lot of talk about the 49ers having one of the weakest schedules in like NFL history. Certainly in the NFL based on last year's success or lack thereof of their opponents that they're going to see. There was also a report yesterday from Dave Softy Mauler up in Seattle that the 49ers were going to open against Seattle in Seattle this season. So we'll get the completion or the entirety of the NFL schedule, which comes out in about 8 minutes at 5 o'clock. And then we'll talk about it in its entirety with Matt Mayoko, who joins us at 5:30. Giants fall today 8-7. They lose 2-3 to Arizona. Off day tomorrow, and then back at the ballpark on Friday. They're home for 2 more series, by the way. They get the A's this weekend. We'll be at the patio 58 Social on Friday. 7:15 first pitch. Come on out, hang out, get a beer, get some lunch, hang with us at the patio. Tim Webb will be there, too. How about that? And then on Monday, the Royals come to town. Kansas City comes to town for a 3-game series before the Giants leave town and before we leave this studio. Before we go to flip the lights on at the new KNBR headquarters.
Oh, it's going to be interesting a week from tomorrow when we start this new venture in Daly City.
Can't wait. Adam Copeland, T-Pop, Tim Webb with you. The schedule release, 7 minutes away. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back. By the way, Warriors do play tonight, too, and what could be their final game of the season. Yeah, I'm not optimistic. Maybe you are, and if you are, I'd say pass me whatever you're smoking. It's Dirty Work, greatest show in America on the Sports Leader.
Now, back to Dirty Work. Adam Copeland and Derek Papa on KNBR 104.5 and 680 AM. The Sports Leader.
Dirty Work on a Wednesday. Maybe the only show in the Bay Area where you're hearing this music on May the 14th.
Damn right you are.
And on probably the 13th or the 11th or the April the 8th. Whenever Derek decides he wants some NFL news, we roll out with some of this music.
Derek was ready for football, so we are too.
I'm always ready for football.
Well, being that the Giants lost 2 or 3 to Arizona, I didn't need that.
Nah.
I need the Warriors rolling tonight. I mean, what do you want to hear us talk speculative? Who could score 20 tonight for the Dub? I don't really give a damn who does.
Can Moses Moody go 3 for 9?
Probably not. If you want this, probably not. He's probably not even capable of doing that right now.
I wouldn't play
That's
tonight.
how bad it's been.
Meanwhile, Derek's chomping at the bit.
So we could speculate if you want, and you guys consider and tell us how negative we are that we don't believe in the Warriors without Steph, who are down 3-1 and can't score 100 points unless they empty the bench with our guy Gee and some Pat
Nothing would make
Spencer.
me happier if they did win tonight,
Don't
but
get me wrong.
I just don't think it's happening.
We're not rooting against them, but you know what's more exciting? Hope. And you know what brings hope?
A schedule.
The 2025. I'll tell you, you saw John Gruden. They dropped off that box to him yesterday.
Oh, man, I love a good schedule.
I'll tell you what, man. I love a schedule, man. By the way, we got some more Gruden in our sound soiree tomorrow.
Big St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Dude, who knew that Gruden was doing videos breaking down?
I go all the way back with Albert Pujols.
I'll tell you what, man. Ali Marmol. He is. He's talking Marmol. Lars Nootbaar, man. This guy, 6 homers, 22 ribs, my guy. Anyway, we got an NFL schedule release.
We do.
For you. Here you go. S650 checks in on the text line at 808 KNBR. They say schedule release LFG. I mean, this paves the way for football fans and for 49er fans from now until January of 2026.
And that's what's got me feeling really nice.
It's got me feeling
Hey,
nice.
I'm excited, but this is more about you and Tim. This planned your whole fall, basically.
Yeah, this is my life now.
All right, so where do we want to start here?
Let's start with the Niners.
Let's start with the 49ers schedule, then we'll get you some of the big holiday games as well, because we've got a triple header on Thanksgiving Day. We got some leaks yesterday. We do know that on Christmas you're getting a Netflix game, Cowboys Commanders. You get a Lions Vikings rematch. Anyway, we'll get to a whole bunch of stuff in terms of the schedule. But Derek, Tim, we got any music for this? Or we going this low level production here?
Tim's scrambling, but it's all good. All right, here we go. Let's start things off.
Quick nod to the 510 who says, what do we get? Cowboys, Commanders, Christmas Day in Tehran? Like, dude, we're getting... I mean, boy, not far off.
I don't know if the NFL's going there yet, but maybe in time.
That's a 2027 schedule.
Yeah. Jet that'll fly you to Qatar. I mean, what are you going to do it?
Playing games in Spain and Brazil. I mean, I'm not putting it past them.
No, there's a whole lot of international games, but no international games for the 49ers and no holiday games. So every home game will be at Levi's. Let's start week 1, and we were alluding to this. We heard rumors about this, but they are indeed going to Seattle week 1 to take on former 49er quarterback Sam Darnold. So the Niners are going on the road once again to start the season to play the Seattle Seahawks. Then week 2.
So Niners on the road in Seattle for
start
week
the
1.
season.
Interesting, okay.
It's been a minute. I want to say like it's 2010. This is the first time that's happened. But moving on, week 2. We got the Niners going on the road again. 10 a.m. start. Mark your calendars, Copes and Tim, as they head to the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Saints. No Derek Carr. Most likely will be Tyler Shuck. So they go to New Orleans to take on the Saints.
Or a Jake Haener, maybe.
We'll see about that.
No?
I don't think so.
Tyler Shuck, Jake Haener?
Not even Spencer Rattler. I think
Rattler, huh?
I think Tyler Shuck's their man.
Okay.
All right, going to week 3. They are home against the Arizona Cardinals. So there you go. They were swept by the Cardinals a year ago, but early meeting against the Arizona Cardinals. Then week 4, we got another home game, back-to-back home games, and they're against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter come to Levi's to take on the 49ers. Week 5.
So hold on real quick. It's 49ers at Seattle week 1, at New Orleans week 2, so opening with back-to-back road games, then home for back-to-back games.
Against
Arizona week 3.
Against the Cardinals and Jags,
Jags week 4, and then on the road for a week 5 tilt against
the Los Angeles Rams.
At SoFi Stadium. How about that?
And that one's going to be on a Thursday night Prime Video, so that means a early off day for me.
It's a Thursday. Well, it's a no-show for you is what it is.
Yes, it is.
Actually, I don't know if that's the case anymore, Tim, with our change in some of the Niner pregame. I think you may be logging an hour on that day, Derek.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like an hour of Derek.
I'd like an hour of Derek on that day.
I'll take an hour. That's fine with me.
So on the schedule, the first 49er primetime game of the season. Is that right? The first primetime game of the season will be a week 5 game at the Rams. It's Thursday Night Football.
Yep. And they're facing off against Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams. And then week 6, they're on the road once again. They go to Tampa Bay for a 10 a.m. start. So, a longer week, but they go to Tampa Bay after they take on the Los Angeles Rams.
So week 5 at the Rams, Thursday Night Football. Week 6 at Tampa Bay. Then they come on home for another primetime game.
They do on Sunday Night Football.
Week 7.
Kind of interesting. They take on the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix. Could be Kirk Cousins, but most likely Michael Penix as the 49ers take on the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football.
Real quick, people are checking in here going, 707 says, what time are these games? Well, they're playing Seattle at Seattle on a day. It only kicks off at one time. It's either 10. If you're on a Sunday and you're not prime time.
Unless I tell you otherwise, if it's a nationally televised game.
A 1.
Yeah.
And the 1 is either 105 or 125. So at Seattle, 105. You should say this. At New Orleans, that's a 10 a.m. kick. That's a morning game.
I did say that. Yeah, okay, just to go through it real quick. Seattle, week 1, afternoon game. Week 2, morning game against the Saints in New Orleans. Week 3, afternoon game against the Arizona Cardinals at Levi's. Week 4, at Levi's against the Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously an afternoon game. Week 5, Thursday night primetime game in Los Angeles against
5:15,
5:15 against the Los Angeles Rams. Then week 6, they're at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, morning game, 10 a.m. Week 7, Sunday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons, 5:20. Then, week 8, they finally take on DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud as they go on the road to take on the Houston Texans. That game also at 10 a.m. So far, through the first 8 weeks, 3 morning games at 10 a.m. Then week 9, back on the road again, and it's a morning game once again at 10 a.m. They take on the New York Giants And yeah, that game's on CBS, so that's a local broadcast.
Tell you what, Tim, we got a lot of 10 a.m. kicks.
Yes.
A lot of 7 a.m. pregame.
That's a lot of mornings for Tim and I on a Sunday.
Hope you like the hangry meal.
Okay, week 10, they're home again, and they take on the Los Angeles Rams. Afternoon game, that's going to be at home at Levi's. So, they're on the road for 2 straight weeks in Houston and New York, then come on home to take on the Los Angeles Rams. Then week 11, they're back on the road, and they have an afternoon game against the Arizona Cardinals. So they're, first 11 weeks, they take on the Arizona Cardinals twice and the Los Angeles Rams twice.
You've wrapped up almost all of your NFC West games by week 11. One to come with Seattle. Stand by.
Yes. So then week 12, Monday Night Football, so nationally televised game. They'll
take
your
third nationally televised game.
Yes, they're taking on the Carolina Panthers. That was a big thing if the 49ers were going to have these nationally televised games, because these games, they're taking on the NFC South, the AFC South, so not really the sexiest opponents. But, yeah, they have a nationally televised game against the Los Angeles Rams, nationally televised game against the Atlanta Falcons, so 2 home games that will be, one game on the road against the Rams, 1 home game nationally televised against the Atlanta Falcons, and then a second game at Levi's that's nationally televised on Monday Night Football as Christian McCaffrey takes on his former team, the Carolina Panthers. That's interesting that game is nationally televised, because the Panthers, they're an up-and-coming team. They have Bryce Young, but I'm very surprised right before Thanksgiving that game's going to go to a national audience. Interesting.
I mean, maybe more about also what happens with the national audience for Thanksgiving, which is why you have to have a Sunday Night Football game somewhere. Or a Monday Night Football game following Is that following Thanksgiving?
No, it's right before Thanksgiving.
It's right before Thanksgiving.
November 24th.
So Niners on the schedule actually do have 2 more nationally televised games. I'll tell you about it. Niners actually have 5 national games this year.
Wow.
Keep going.
That is surprising.
Yeah,
okay.
So they get Monday night against Carolina, week 12. That's a 5:15 kick at home. Week 13, they go back on the road. They take on the Cleveland Browns, another 10 a.m. kick.
That's 4.
That's at Cleveland.
4 10 a.m. starts.
That's 4 10 a.m. starts,
yes.
Sorry. At Cleveland, week 13. Week 14 is their bye.
That's a late bye.
That's a late bye week this year. So the Niners' bye is week 14 for those keeping score at home. 5 nationally televised games. We told you about 3 of them. They get 1 bye. Of course, the 1 bye, it's not coming until week 14.
Wow.
Week 15, they take on the Tennessee Titans. That game is at home. That's a 1:25 kick Sunday, December the 14th. Week 16, Monday Night Football. They are at the Indianapolis Colts for a Monday Night Football game at Lucas Oil Stadium.
That's Monday night, too?
Week 16, 5:15, Monday Night Football.
I am shocked the Niners are getting this many nationally televised games.
Against opponents who aren't all that fantastic.
They're not that good.
Dude. There you go. So they get the Colts, Monday Night Football, Week 16.
And then this one's surprising, too. Week 17.
Sunday Night Football against the Bears.
I got to think that gets flexed out. Maybe. All right, we'll see. Go ahead, Tim.
What you got, Tim?
And on my birthday.
Oh, dude, stop. Stop. They're taking on the Bears on Tim's birthday. Tim, will you be there with me at that game?
Almost definitely.
Yeah,
Chicago,
come on, man. It's Sunday Night Football. You got to be there.
Well, it means something because the last game of the season, which to be determined because they flex those final games of the year,
Yep.
They will take on the Seattle Seahawks for the final time. So they'll play a division opponent week 18, which, by the way, means that they go from the last game against Arizona, week 11, all the way until week 18 without playing another divisional opponent.
Yeah, so they bookend against so they start the season with Seattle, ended with Seattle. So I'm going through the 10 a.m. starts here.
There's 5 10 a.m.
There's
starts.
5, okay.
There's 5 10 a.m. starts, and there's 5 nationally televised games.
Wow, that's surprising. Okay, so New Orleans, they have the 10 a.m. start in New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Houston, New York, and Cleveland. Wow, 5. How do you guys feel about that, waking up that early?
I don't really mind those. I'm more trying to find the death stretch. What's the stretch of games that on paper look like it could be the toughest? I think right now we're looking at, does it start with that Rams game? Does it go Rams, Bucks, Falcons, Houston?
I think so. I think
that's maybe the tough. You know what the toughest thing is when's the last time the Niners, and we'll talk to Matt Mayoko about this at the bottom of the hour, last time the 49ers had a bye week this late in the season?
That's pretty late.
I got to tell you, I feel like since the time I started covering the team in 2019, when I started on the pre- and post-game shows, I don't know that they've had a bye that was like beyond week 10. In that span. We'd have to go back and look. Maybe an 11.
I'll look up here.
Maybe an 11, but I love a week 8 and a week 9.
Yeah, week 14, I mean, God, you have, 3 weeks left or 4 weeks left. That's not ideal, I think. I mean, with a team that was banged up a season ago, you want to have, your bye week not too early, probably smack dab in the middle, right what you said, Copes, week 8 or 9. But, yeah, I don't love that bye week for the Niners at all. But I'm shocked that coming into the schedule release, we knew the opponents after the season ended. With a 6-11 finish, I thought that maybe they would get 3 nationally televised games, especially the opponents they're facing. But to get 5, I know the Niners are huge globally, but I'm very surprised that they put them on nationally television. And the opponents they're facing, the Falcons.
The Rams and the Falcons don't shock me all that much. I mean,
The Falcons kind of do because
early in the season, though, early enough in the season. When is it? It's week 7. I guess you're halfway through the season.
Yeah.
You know, the Niners do kind of have in like a built-in. I'm looking more at the dates here. They do have like a built-in mini bye. Week 1 against Seattle, at Seattle. Week 2 at New Orleans. Week 3 against Arizona at home. Week 4 against the Jags at home.
Yeah.
Then they go Thursday Night Football. So a short week there against the Jags at home. Duval taking on the Rams on Thursday Night Football. First time you'll see the Rams. It's a prime video game, but then 10 days off before their Week 6 game against the Buccaneers. So you do get a bit of a mini bye early in the season, but the official bye does not happen until Week 14. Niners get 2 Monday Night Football games, 2 Sunday Night Football games, and a Thursday night game against the Rams.
So the Sunday Night Football is going to be against the Falcons and
the Bears.
And the Bears,
And somebody on the Texans says they flex those games all the time. They flex. To say they flex all the time, I think, is overstating it.
They don't flex all the time.
They don't flex that frequently. They'll flex, and they'll give themselves the out.
It would take them a lot. Like, honestly, a lot of the times they'll leave teams in there just because they're a big market. So we'll see where the Niners are at. We'll see where the Bears are at. For playoff positioning, I would think maybe they would flex out of that game. We'll see what happens with the Bears this season. But, yeah, right now, 5 nationally televised games. I am absolutely shocked that the Niners got this much run.
Can I offer you a preseason tilt?
Sure, why not?
Can I offer you the preseason schedule this year?
Sure.
Niners, if you're a season ticket holder, you love this, getting the same price as season tickets for your 2 preseason games. You get the Broncos at home, which presumably will be a Thursday game.
Yep.
We don't have the schedule yet. Raiders at the Raiders, which presumably will be a Saturday game.
And we'll see if Greg Papa's allowed on the field before the game.
And you get, of course, your final preseason tune-up against the Chargers at home.
So the usual suspects.
I assume that's a Friday night,
yeah.
Well, we made the assumption last week it was last year it was Friday and it was a Saturday. We got to get on.
Yeah, it was a Saturday, and it's like a 7 o'clock kick.
The immediate thing that jumps to me here, the fact that they are done with their division games, except for one, very early is kind of like an interesting thing. Also, no Christmas, no Thanksgiving. So
no Christmas games, no Thanksgiving games. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to play win-loss here because I just think that's not really appealing radio. But just looking at it, like
when you take a look at your Niners, what do you think?
My Niners, well, as far as the 49ers, the team, I mean, Seattle is an interesting start. But then you got New Orleans, who I think could be one of the worst teams in football with 3 inexperienced quarterbacks. You go on the road to face them, then you're home against Arizona. I know you got swept by them a year ago, but we'll see what happens. Anything can happen with division opponents. Then you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, who could be better with Travis Hunter, but I think you're potentially looking at a 3-1 start, but anything, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen right before the season starts. So I think it's an easy schedule to start, and then things get weird around week 5 where they have to play the Rams, Buccaneers, Falcons, and then the Houston Texans.
Let's take a quick break. Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area, is going to join us at the bottom of the hour at 5:30. We'll pick his brain about anything that stands out. When we come back, let's go through some of the national stuff in terms of what are the games we're getting on holidays, some of the big matchups that we'll get early in the season, the opening day for the NFL. But as it stands right now, schedule is out, 49er fans. Niners 5 10 a.m. games this year. Should be playing one of the easiest schedules on paper in all of football. Thursday night football against the Rams, Sunday night football against Atlanta, Monday night against the Panthers, Monday night against the Colts, Sunday night against the Bears. 5 national games. It's like the Niners of the 80s. We'll talk more about this when we come on back. It's Dirty Work, greatest show in America on the schedule release leader.
The Giants dropped 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks, losing 8-7 in a thriller. San Francisco has lost 5 of 6 heading into a Thursday off day. Friday, it's the A's from wherever. For all things Giants, keep it locked to KNBR, the sports leader.
Now back to Dirty Work. Adam Copeland and Derek Papa in the KNBR Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpot Studios. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Kind of got me fired up. Schedule release.
Yeah, this music in May.
I haven't seen you this happy in months, dude.
Yeah, I've been miserable.
By the way, I called him Derek's Niners there. As 415 on the Golden State Lumber Showroom text line checks in, says, Derek's Giants have lost 5 of 6. Derek's Niners have a last place schedule. Derek's Warriors are 1 loss from Cabo.
It's all me.
Derek's a jinx is what
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Somebody
everybody.
earlier, I think it was on the 415, says, I blame all of this on Derek.
Yep, as they should. It's my fault that Steph Curry hurt his hamstring.
Easy to do. So the things that stand out initially is that the 49ers wrap up their NFC West schedule with the exception of the last game of the season. They play the Rams twice. They play the Cardinals twice. They play Seattle once, all by week 11.
Yep.
So in their first 11 games, 5 of them are divisional opponents. Then they go to week 14 before they get their bye week. Week 14 bye for the Niners.
And I'm trying to find out the last time they had a late bye week like that. I'm
Ask
doing
Matt
some
Mayoko.
research.
He joins us at the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, I can't remember when that late in the time that I've been covering the team since 2019.
Well, last year they had the bye week
Week
at
9?
Week 9.
I feel like they've been week 8, 9, 10 for a lot. Maybe 11 is as late as I can remember.
Yeah, week 14 is not ideal.
It's about as late as they'll come now.
Per the 49ers, this marks the first time since buys were introduced in 1990 that the 49ers have had their bye in week 14. So first time.
There you
Wow.
go.
Wait, they didn't have bye weeks until week 19 since 1990?
No. Wait, what?
I'll get the note. Hang on.
Tim, don't be coming with notes if they're not right, dude. Come on, brother. Anyway, that's what stands out the most to us, I think, right now, is that the 49ers are going to play 5 of their first 11 games against divisional opponents. Week 14 is their bye week.
Yeah.
They got 5 nationally televised games, 5 10 a.m. starts. How about that?
Yeah, and I'm looking it up. 2023 and 2024, they had their bye weeks exactly on week 9. And then in 2022, as I scroll down here, their bye week was week 9. So 3 straight years they had their bye week, week 9. For whatever reason, this year it's week 14.
And by the way, Tim is right. The NFL began using bye weeks in the 1990 and 91 season.
God.
Before that, some teams had bye weeks in 1960, 66, and 67, but they were not league-wide scheduled features.
That's
Which is
insane.
absurd.
And you made me second guess there for a second.
No. I mean, I didn't know that. I know a lot about NFL history. I did not know that in 1990 bye weeks were introduced. That's insane.
2 people checking on the text on 408 says, yeah, Derek's happy now. Wait until Aaron Rodgers signs somewhere. And another texter, 650, says, Derek's Rodgers hasn't signed anywhere. So I love the people.
Give it time, everybody. Give it time.
Who are lumping you in with Aaron Rodgers.
The rumor is that he doesn't want his son until he has to be at OTAs, which is in a couple of weeks.
Give me some national news. Give me some opening day NFL games week 1, and then give me some holidays.
Well, since you say Aaron Rodgers, you see the potential week 1 matchup for him if he signs with the Steelers?
Is it like Steelers-Packers or something?
At the Jets.
Okay, yeah.
So it could be Justin Fields against Aaron Rodgers. The Sunday Night Football game for week 1 is a rematch of the playoff game against the Ravens and Bills. So that game will be on Sunday Night Football between the 2 MVP candidates that finished 1 and 2, controversial. Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson.
Ravens-Bills opening night, huh? Sunday Night Football?
Opening night. By the way,
Opening week.
Yeah, this is interesting. The late slate for week 1, you got Lions at the Packers, which is pretty good for week 1. Texans at Rams, both games on CBS. It doesn't look like Fox is getting a late game, so we might not see Tom Brady until week 2. So that's a weird thing if you follow the NFL for quite some time. Usually the NFC teams get the Fox games, but whatever.
I don't know, the Papa family's obsessed with who's broadcasting what game. I'll tell you what, none of the schedule release, even none of when will I hear from Tom Brady, none of that even touched my mind until you brought it up.
The broadcasters are a big deal.
It's not. No, it's not.
You may get a bunch of Jim Nantz week 1, Copes.
No, it doesn't matter to me.
I know.
None of that matters to me. Who the broadcaster doesn't matter. That doesn't bother me. Yeah. I'll tell you this, Eagles-Chiefs rematch week 2.
Week 2. Ooh, that's juicy.
And that will be your first Tom Brady game.
Oh, jeez.
Who cares?
Well, the Sunday Night Football game for week 2 is interesting to me. Falcons at Vikings. I don't know why they're putting the Falcons so much on Sunday Night Football with the Niners in week 7 and then week 2 against the Vikings. I don't get that.
Alfred Blank is apparel for man.
Yeah. And then week 2, you'll get you'll finally get the What's Your Deal Bro Bowl as the Chargers take on the Raiders on ESPN. And it's a doubleheader as the Buccaneers take on the Texans. Let me get your Thanksgiving games.
I'm pretty intrigued by that, by the way, the What's Your Deal, Bro game.
What's your deal, bro?
I mean, not a ton of interest in the Raiders, but seeing Harbaugh and Carroll go at it again, that'll be fun.
That'll be kind of fun, yeah.
Okay, for Thanksgiving, week 13, you got the Packers taking on the Lions. That's your morning game. You got the Chiefs taking on the Cowboys. That game will do just ridiculous numbers ratings-wise. And then Sunday night, you get the Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens. So Joe Burrow against Lamar Jackson. And then we said this yesterday. For Black Friday, we had the Bears taking on the Eagles on Amazon Prime. And then I'll get your Christmas Day games here in a little bit as soon as I find it.
All right, we'll get to the Christmas Day games momentarily. We got to take a quick break because Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider from NBC Sports Bay Area, will join us next. We'll talk to him about the Niners schedule release. Again, notes that stand out from the Niners schedule. Their bye is not until week 14. I believe that Tim pointing out that's the latest bye they've ever had since byes became a regular thing as part of the NFL schedule.
Per the 49ers.
Per the 49ers back in 1990. The Niners have 5 nationally televised games. They've got 5 games that will kick off at 10 a.m. locally here in the Bay Area. And the other note here is because that bye is not till week 14, after the week 5 game at the Rams, that's a Thursday night football game, their first national game of the season, 10 days off before they take on the Bucs. So a little mini built-in bye for 10 days.
And loving the fact that it's the Rams, so the travel is pretty minimal.
There you go.
Had it been Houston or something like that.
And they come home to take on the Bucs, which is nice.
Yeah, 3 straight weeks in California. Real quick, your Christmas Day games, all on streaming platforms. Cowboys at Commanders on Netflix, Lions at Vikings on Netflix, and then to top it all off, Broncos at Chiefs on Prime Video.
Nice. It's actually, by the way, Niners go like 5 straight weeks in California. They go week 3 against Arizona at home, week 4 against Jacksonville at home, week 5 against the Rams at LA, week 6 against the Bucs at home, week 7 against the Falcons at home. They go 5 straight weeks and don't leave the state of California.
That's crazy.
Nice.
And typically,
they get a 10-day off break at there at one point.
Well, and as you well know, typically they don't play a lot of games early in the season at home because of the sun and whatnot. So this is sort of a new thing, part of the schedule, part of having the last place schedule.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let's talk to Matt Mayoko about it. He's going to join us next, our 49er insider, NBC Sports Bay Area. The NFL schedule is out. We know what our weekends look like until the end of January. We'll talk about it next with Matt Mayoko, only here on the Sports Leader.
San Francisco.
to Dirty Work. Adam Copeland and Derek Papa on KNBR 104.5 and 680 AM. The Sports Leader.
We're venturing to make the connection with Matt Mayoko. But until then, we're all just sort of fawning over the NFL schedule, which has been released. It came out about a half hour ago, about 35 minutes ago. And most of the reaction from 49er fans is just that, hey, this thing looks pretty good. I think the one thing you look at, and I wonder about this one, I've always wondered why the Niners were so blessed, it felt like, to have a middle-of-the-season schedule. I mean, ideally, getting a Week 8 or a Week 9 or a Week 10 schedule is like exactly where you want to be, right? Get yourself halfway through.
No, definitely.
Get a little a break, get a blow, try to refresh, and then you're back on it for the back half of the season. The Niners this year, by the time they'll have their bye week, Week 14, they'll have wrapped up the entirety, with the exception of one game of their NFC West schedule. They'll have one game remaining against Seattle at home to finish the season. I do love that. I do love bookending the season. You open with Seattle, you close with Seattle. One of them on the road, the last one is at home. If that game means something, you get a game at home against a division opponent with a chance to try to do some damage. It is interesting to me that they get 5 consecutive weeks where they don't leave the state of California. They do play one of those on a short week against the Rams. And if I had to pick out any tough on-paper stretch for the Niners, it starts that Week 5 game against the Rams.
Yeah,
short week
I agree.
Thursday night against the Rams. Week 6 then, short week there, coming back. Actually, it's you get extra time off. That's a little mini bye week. 10 days off. You're at home against Tampa. Then you're at home for Sunday Night Football 2 weeks later or a week later on Week 7 against the Falcons. Then you go on the road to take on the Texans. But again, you come home for Week 3 after opening on the season in Seattle against New Orleans, home for Arizona Week 3, home for Jacksonville Week 4, in LA against the Rams Week 5, home for Tampa Week 6, home for Atlanta Week 7. That's 5 consecutive games. Don't even leave California. You got to feel good about that, Niner fans.
No, definitely. I mean, we knew that these opponents were going to be, it's not like in previous years where they were the number 1 seed and they're taking on the cream of the crop of the NFC. So, yeah, I mean, these opponents, I mean, it looks good on paper right now. We'll see what happens. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will be a better team. I think that, I mean, when I see early on, New Orleans doesn't look like a great team coming up. But, like, as far as the NFC South and the AFC South, they're pretty mediocre teams. But, yeah, like, you go to, like, it's just the early starts, going to New York, going to Cleveland, going to Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay is a good team, but yeah, if we think this Niner team is going to improve on what they did a season ago, I know that they let a lot of people walk out the door, and hopefully they're going to sign Brock Purdy this summer right before training camp. But I think that on paper, this should be a favorable schedule, and this should put them in the playoffs. Now, I don't want to go through and wins, losses, and everything like that, but just looking at it right now, this looks like a fairly easy schedule, but anything could happen.
Sorry, Tim, what were you saying?
I was saying I got all the Thursday night games as well as a list. Amazon really kind of came up this year. You know, Thursday night games are also known for having historically pretty putrid football. But there's some really interesting matchups. We'll only get there if you guys want to, though.
I think Matt Mayoko's ready to go, though.
Okay, let me give him a call.
See if we can connect with Matt here. I'm looking more at the strength of schedule. Like, for example, the 408 checks in says maybe the Niners get a Week 14 bye. Maybe it works because the Niners have the easiest schedule according to their records of the 2024 opponents of anybody in the NFL. If we can do well, says the texter, it will give us a chance to prepare for the postseason. And another sort of apt schedule quirk thing you're always looking for, this texter 707 says, how many teams do the Niners face coming off of their bye?
Last year that was an S show because you faced the likes of the Chiefs and the Cowboys. I believe we have Matt Mayoko.
And by the way, I've made one mistake here. I said there were 5 straight weeks. They go to Tampa. They're not at home for Tampa. My mistake. You guys didn't correct me on that. We made the connection with Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bay Area. Matt, a Week 14 bye. Is that your biggest surprise you see in the schedule?
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'd say the biggest surprise was just the lackluster opponents for those primetime games.
Yeah, right.
I mean, honestly, when I looked at the schedule, I was like, how many of those primetime games are even going to happen?
I know.
Because they're facing Carolina, they're facing Atlanta, Indy, and Chicago.
Yeah, right.
Ugh.
Yeah. In Indy, in Chicago, Week 17. You know, Chicago should be improved, right? But they're also in the same division as the Lions and the Packers and the Vikings. So they might be out of it. And so, I mean, I don't know what the NFL was thinking. To me, there were like two really marquee non-division opponents, and it was Tampa Bay and it was Houston.
I agree.
And even those aren't like super marquee. But to have primetime games scheduled against Atlanta, Carolina, Indy, and Chicago, I don't get it, and I would be surprised if at least two of those games aren't flexed out.
Yeah, people were saying that in the text line just a few minutes ago, going, well, they flex those games often. I said, they flex games often, but oftentimes they're not going to do it to a team multiple times in multiple weeks. Two of the three, I think, are within 3 weeks of each other, a couple of the primetime games. The Rams one is early. It's a Thursday night game, so that's going to stand. The Atlanta one is a little bit odd.
The Atlanta one could stay just because at that point in the schedule,
week 7 or something
NFL,
like that.
Yeah. The NFL has a restriction that they can only move two of those games off over, I think it's a 5 or 6 week period. So that one actually could stay. But as you get later on in the season, 49ers could have a good year and look at their schedule, and you would be surprised, I think, if they don't dramatically improve over last season. But they could still kind of carry their end of the bargain. But now they would have to rely on some pretty bad teams. I mean, just looking at the Vegas win totals, 3 of those 4 teams are expected to be under 500. And I just can't see that an under 500 team having a primetime game that late in the year. And then the one team that is right down the middle, 8.5 victories is the total Vegas has for the Chicago Bears. But again, at that being week 17, that has to have some playoff implications, and I would think that they would want playoff implications for both teams in order to keep that in its time slot at prime time week 17.
Yeah, I mean, the opponents are definitely head-scratching, but as far as the Niners, when they finished 6-11 a year ago, getting 5 primetime matchups, I know the Niners are huge, Matt, but are you surprised the league gave them 5 primetime games to begin with?
Well, I thought it would. I knew that they'd want to get them on prime time because they do have a great following and they always get good ratings. But again, I would go back to it doesn't necessarily. I would say maybe mildly surprises me that they get 5. But what really surprises me is 4 of the 5 that they got. I mean, I could have seen Chicago earlier in the season. When there's more kind of intrigue of what's Caleb Williams going to be like in year 2. But I don't know why they would have Chicago so late in the year when because I think early in the season, there's probably going to be a lot of optimism about them. But week 17, more than likely their season is going to be written. But if that was like a week 2 or 3 or 4 game, I'd be all in on that just because I think there is a fascination of, the improvements they've made, the new coach, Caleb Williams, year 2, will his game take a jump? So to me, that would have been a much more intriguing matchup very early in the year.
Talking to Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bay Area, joins us courtesy of the UMA guest line. Here's a note Tim just threw at me. The 49ers are playing 0 teams this year coming off of a bye.
Ooh.
Well, I guess what do they say about the squeaky wheel
gets the oil?
The grease?
Yeah, squeaky wheel gets the grease, yeah.
Yeah, so... And again, this schedule matches up really well for them, and that's interesting. I haven't had time to dive into it that deeply, but
Pearl got Josh Dubois of the AP, so a reliable source,
yep. Yeah, very much reliable source. So after 2 straight years of having like almost historical deficits in rest compared to their opposition, you would think that the NFL would have bent over backwards just to make sure that it wasn't 3 in a row. So that is something I'm sure the 49ers have been angling now for a couple of years to just kind of get on the plus side of that rest differential.
So, Matt, I mean, what do you make of the Week 14 bye? I looked it up. The last 3 seasons, they had a bye week, Week 9, which seems like the ideal spot you want a bye week. And I had no idea. This is the latest bye week they've ever had since 1990. I wasn't even aware that they didn't have bye weeks prior to 1990. But what do you make of such a late bye this season?
Yeah, and I don't know if that it was just coincidence or not, but it as you noted, Week 9 bye week each of the last 3 seasons before this year, and then the common denominator was they made it to the championship game in each of the seasons before that. So I don't know if they give a little, if they give the benefit to a team that plays well the previous year. It is late for the bye week, and I can guarantee you someone after week 13 will be saying, hey, the bye week is coming at the perfect time. I can guarantee it because they say that every year.
Yeah.
So that's my one prediction. The other part of it is if the 49ers can keep it together, stay healthy, and be where they expect to be, where they want to be, then that week 14 bye could help them, because then it would give them a break, get them off their legs for the final 4 games of the season, for in essence, the stretch run of the season. So it could end up being a benefit. And, you also got to remember only one team out of each conference gets a bye heading into the playoffs. So it could work to their advantage, because even the year they went to the Super Bowl, it just kind of felt like they lost something even in the playoffs. They didn't play super against the Packers or the Lions. They won those games and went to the Super Bowl, but it seemed like they kind of left their best football out there during the regular season. Basically, after that loss on Christmas night to the Ravens, they didn't play it that well. So maybe that's a benefit to just get them off their feet and get them rested for that stretch run and potentially heading into the playoffs.
I would say it's worth noting also, Matt, and personally, just as a fan, I'd rather have the bye late than have it early, because, again, you give yourself an opportunity to get some rest, especially if you're hoping for a playoff run and you're not going to be one of the only 2 teams in the NFL who ends up with a bye in the first round. Go ahead.
I was going to just say that it's almost like you don't know how the season is going to play out, but the longer you can hold off on having your bye, the better you can be. Just as long as you're able to stay healthy and kind of stay on pace. But if you're on a roll and you can keep pushing that bye week back, then I think that's advantageous to you.
I was saying to Derek, I think it's worth noting, though, that in the midst of the early part of the season, before they go, so after they play the Rams on Thursday night, they have one of those sort of mini buys that's built in. It's a Thursday night game, and at least it's still in California after you played 2 games at home, and then week 6 they go to Tampa, but it's 10 days off between those 2 games. So it is the sort of mini buy, and you get to play 3 straight weeks in California.
And also, that would be the one game, even before the schedule came out, when you look at it, that would be the one game to me that's probably the most difficult game on the schedule when you take into consideration what should be a pretty good team, certainly a playoff contender, as well as the travel aspect of it. So if they could have mapped out that, the mini bye week at any point, or the bye week, I guess, but because this is reality, it's the mini bye week, that's probably the perfect spot for them to have that back-to-back game of, the short turnaround facing the Rams, only an hour flight down to the Levi Stadium South, and then the longer week to get ready for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So to me, it seems like every year you look at the schedule for the 49ers and you go, man, that's a tough stretch. I mean, last year, the one that just jumped out was Green Bay and Buffalo on the road, back-to-back games.
Yep.
And there wasn't a person on the planet who thought the 49ers had any chance to beat Buffalo on the second end of that back-to-back. There's nothing like that on this year's schedule.
No, there's not. And I was even sort of pressed to find a tough stretch of games, and that's the one that you just mentioned. Week 5, I thought the 4-game stretch of Rams, Thursday night short week, then Buccaneers, I guess Falcons, and then Texans, like that 4-week window is kind of the one that I look at on paper as maybe the difficult stretch.
Yeah, when you look at like the travel part of it, it would be that game at Houston, a 10 a.m. West Coast start, followed by the game at New York, 10 a.m. West Coast start. And I haven't asked anybody, and I don't know if they would have even made a decision yet on that, but that would be the one back-to-back that would lend itself potentially to staying somewhere in the Eastern time zone.
Houston and New York, is that right?
Yeah. And I don't know that they would do that because they would be able to get back from Houston, probably, Sunday evening, West Coast time. Yeah. So I kind of doubt that they would do that. If the game at Houston were, say, a Sunday night game, like it probably should have been, then maybe yes. But I don't think it really lends itself this year to any of those week-long trips to the East Coast.
And then last one for you, Matt, before we let you go. Niners schedule is out, everybody. The 2025 schedule release happened just under an hour ago. The one other note here is that the Niners are going to open against Seattle in Seattle, close against Seattle at home. We don't know the date or time of that Week 18 game, which I think is sort of interesting. But as interesting or quirky to me is they will wrap up all the games against the NFC West with the exception of that Week 18 game by Week 11. They'll play everybody twice, Seattle once, and then Seattle the last game of the year. But from week 12 until 18, no more division opponents.
Yeah, and they struggled within the division last year. I guess they struggled everywhere last year, but they only won the one game in the division last year, and that was against the Seattle Seahawks up there.
Right.
And so that's the one game that they won. They've had some success in recent years up in Seattle. They certainly went many years without having success, but when you look at it, 3 of the first 5 games are division opponents, and so that's a chance right there for them to, within those 3 games, to improve upon last year's win total within the division right off the bat. And it is very odd. And I keep checking Josh DeBell's Twitter feed, because I don't know that I can remember a week, a first game against an opponent and a last game against the same opponent. So that is very interesting to see how those teams won't even be the same team.
That's what I mean. You'll be 2 totally different franchises, basically.
It won't even be worth their while to be looking at game film from week 1 because there will be so many different players out there.
It's like when the Giants wrapped up against the Dodgers in like July a couple of years ago. We're like, this new schedule stinks. I'm like, it's not playing the Dodgers again in the last 2 months of the season. Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bear. Great to talk to you on schedule release day, Matt. It's always sort of a fun day when you get to see how our weekends look for the remainder of the year, right?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And then next week, let's just start talking about the 2026 schedule. Why don't we?
We'll do. I want to get the Matt Mayoko mock on the 2026 schedule. Yeah, the Mayoko mock 1.0 on 2026. We'll do it next week. Matt, have a great night. We'll talk to you later, man.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good deal. We got to get out of here. We'll take a quick break. We'll put the show to bed when we come on back. Dirty Work, greatest show in America on a Wednesday on the Sports Leader.
Well, it's do or die time for the Warriors. Check out John Dickinson boots on the ground immediately following the game tonight for all post-game reaction right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You know what it's time for. Time for me to tell you about Live in Moss. We're going to live Moss on Friday. I know I'm going to live Moss. I know Tim's going to live Moss. Derek may not live Moss on Friday. Derek, you going to live Moss Friday?
I'm going to live Moss Friday.
We're going to live Moss Friday.
Live Moss.
And you know, we're going to start by, I'm going to place the order for us when we live Moss Friday because I'm the one who's downloaded. And you guys got to do it too. You got to download the Taco Bell app so you can unlock exclusive rewards and access. Plus, I'm going to earn the points. I'm not giving Tim my points. I'm not giving Derek my points. I'm using my points. I might use some of my points on them so we can live extra Moss.
Some points.
We can live even Moss. When you join the Taco Bell rewards, you can choose a Cantina Chicken Crispy Taco, a beefy 5-layer burrito, or a soft taco, all for free. I can imagine we'll be diving into some of that on Friday when we're out by the ballpark. Plus, you get exclusive insider access. And by the way, is there a better place, as I just mentioned, to earn and redeem points than the Taco Bell Cantina? Right downtown near the ballpark, just off 3rd and Townsend. It's a block from the stadium. We'll be out there doing the show on Friday. You should be out there too. And on your way in, you can stop by Taco Bell and pick yourself up a burrito, a taco, or you can even get yourself a drink at the Taco Bell Cantina. If you're looking for something to do after the game, stop by for a beer and keep the good times rolling. So again, stop by the Taco Bell Cantina downtown for a cold drink and good food. Your taste buds will thank you. And as Tim will tell you, as Derek will tell you, as I'm telling you right now, don't forget to live Moss.
And remember to live Moss.
time for Dirty Work to put the show to bed.
Are you crazy? I don't need a bed.
On the Sports Leader.
Now you will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
Well, if you're watching the Dirty Work stream,
I'm all the way to the left.
Up on KNBR.com and the KNBR app, or at KNBR 1045 in the YouTube chat. We got a graphic up there for you.
Come on, loader. Could I find anything smaller?
Nice beefy graphic there. It's the 49ers schedule. How about that?
All up on there.
No me.
No Tim. All Niners schedule.
We got enough of you yesterday, Tim.
I'm stoked about this.
You got enough of me.
Tim, did you see I ironed out with Mike? I was talking to him about our Stanford schedule. For those who don't know, Tim and I do Stanford and Niners on the weekend. So
whole lot of Tim.
In football season, Tim and I spend 7 days a week together a lot of times. Or 6 to the 7, a lot of times.
One time I think we did a stretch of like 24
I think we did last season. We had like 22 straight days together or something like that.
But not only do you guys work together, Tim drives you to Levi's or Stanford.
which is even better. Like, Tim and I spend all this time together at work during the week. Then the weekend comes and we're like, yeah, it's a lot of Tim and Cope together. Which, dude, it makes it easier. If I didn't like Tim or Tim and I we just got scheduled to do this together. It's not like we volunteered, like, hey, we'll be the guys to do this. Like, Tim had been doing Stanford and Niners before I started on either.
Right.
And then we just started getting scheduled together. Could you imagine, Tim, if we just absolutely hated each other? This would be brutal football season. Dude.
Oh, man.
We did not get along.
It would be crazy if you guys hated each other.
By the way, just so the audience knows, I love spending an extra 45 minutes dropping Adam in North Beach on the way home from Palo Alto and from Santa Clara. It's just a deviation all the way down.
Do you offer to pay for gas?
Well, no, never once. No, I'm not going to pay for gas.
Yeah, why not? He's picking you up.
He volunteered.
For 3 straight years?
The funniest
I think we're coming up on, I think this is year 6 together, by the way.
The funny and worst part about it is he'll sleep on the way there, on the way down.
Oh, dude.
So I just got to sit there and be like, okay, well, I guess I'm avoiding the potholes.
There are Sundays where I am hungover beyond belief. And I show up at Tim's apartment at like 6:15 or whatever it is, 7 o'clock, so we can get down to Levi Stadium to do our pregame. And there are times where it's like dumping rain, and I'm like, I'm not dealing with this.
Oh, dude, that's my favorite story where it was dumping rain, and Tim's like, white knuckling it. And you're like,
I wake up on the freeway.
When we get there.
I wake up on the freeway, and Tim is white knuckling it. He's going like 15 miles an hour.
True story.
You can't see 5 feet in front of the car. And my seat was pulled all the way back, and I woke up, and I was look around. It's like 8 in the morning or whatever, and I went, oh, man. Well, if we get there, I'll see you there. And I went back to sleep. Tim went,
Sounds like you.
Yeah.
He dropped it. Oh, man, this sucks. Well,
yeah, this sucks.
Wake me up when we get there.
Let me know when we arrive, dude. Anyway, schedule is out. It's all up here on the stream right now. Niners Nightly coming up, by the way, right around the corner. Larry's going to review the schedule, I imagine.
Are we tap dancing, Tim, or is Larry good to go?
I was going to put the show to bed right now.
Let's try. Let's give it a whirl.
Let's see what happens.
Okay.
We'll see if Larry's there. All right, Tim, what do we got to put the show to bed? You got a note to self for us?
Yeah, note to self schedule came out, and so did the week 1 lines. The 49ers are a 1.5-point favorite versus the Seahawks. Let's go, Niners.
How do you like those odds?
Week 1 favorites?
1.5-point favorite.
Based on my look at the schedule, 11-5 seems good.
Okay. Well, they don't play 16 games anymore, Copes, but...
Yeah, I figured one of them doesn't matter.
Okay, fine.
11-6 seems good. I didn't even run down. I just made up a number.
No. Tomorrow you'll get the... let's get the red Sharpie out and then the gold Sharpie out for wins and losses. We're not doing that early.
What you got?
Note to self. I guess I'm the only one that cares about announcers when they do these games. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a note to self that I just took off of the text line. I had a different one, but I'm going to steal this one because it's about me riding down with Tim. Note to self.
Note to self.
Gas, grass, or ass. Nobody rides for free, Copes.
Eliminate
accurate.
one of those.
That's accurate.
You are listening to KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus media station. Thanks to our guest, Matt Naoko, who stopped by for the schedule release. We'll have a full show tomorrow, a Thursday afternoon show, before we are at the patio on Friday for Giants and the A's. Everybody enjoy pouring over the schedule, buying your plane tickets tonight, figuring out how many games you're going to get to for the Niners in 2025. And until tomorrow, for anybody who needs to hear it, it gets easier. Every day it gets a little easier. Just got to do it every day. That's the dirty work, but it does get easier. Larry Krueger, schedule release version of Niners Nightly starts right now.
I'm a fool to do your dirty work. Go, yeah. I don't want to do your dirty work no more.
All right, we're off and running. It's Niners Nightly. Hope everybody can hear me. Larry Krueger with you on The Sports Leader and having some mic problems. There we go. I think it's a little bit better right there. If we can hold our mic, yeah, I think we can. I think you guys can hear me, right? There we go. I think, but welcome to Niners Nightly. And we're having some issues with the mic. We're having some issues. We'll do this. We'll take a time out. We'll come back in just a second on The Sports Leader.
The Giants dropped 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks, losing 8-7 in a thriller. San Francisco has lost 5 of 6 heading into a Thursday off day. Friday, it's the A's from wherever. For all things Giants, keep it locked to KNBR, the sports leader.
to Niners Nightly with your host, Larry Krueger, on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, welcome back to Niners Nightly. Larry Krueger with you. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but the Niners schedule release came out today, and the 49ers, I think overall you have to be really thrilled with the schedule if you're a 49er fan. I mean, just going through it, the one thing that jumps out right away is that, the Niners-Seahawks battles this year could be really, really unique from the standpoint of, we've seen the Niners play the Seahawks twice in a 3-week span. This year, the Niners play Seattle in Seattle week 1 and then don't play them again until week 18. So, you may not get in either game a real representative showing from Seattle because you just don't know what they'll be at the end of the year or what you'll be at the end of the year. That's what happens when you play a team week 1 and then week 18. It's you get almost two different teams, and who knows what Seattle's going to look like early, who knows what Seattle's going to look like late. But I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought the 49ers, I always look at the first month of the season to see what does the first month look like, what's the challenge of the first month. And, the Niners start twice on the road, 2 games on the road, and that's by design, right? They ask the league to keep them out of, keep their fans and the people on the Suns side of the field at Levi's, out of the really, really hot weather if you can avoid it. And that's obviously week 1, 2, 3. And the Niners don't play at home in week 1 or week 2. So they're at Seattle, at New Orleans to start, and their first home game is not until week 3 against the Cardinals. So I think that's advantage 49ers. I also think getting the Saints in week 2, a New Orleans team who's going to be the quarterback? I mean, with Derek Carr retiring, you got Tyler Shuck, you've got Spencer Rattler, you got Jake Hayner. I mean, they're going to battle it out. Who knows? I mean, you could be going up against Tyler Shuck, a 27-year-old rookie making his second start if he starts week 1. So I think getting the Saints early is great. Of course, that game for Niner fans might not be a bad game to attend early either, I should say, in New Orleans. You want to go watch your team on the road, maybe go check them out in New Orleans in week 2. Week 3, Cardinals at home. Okay, I think the Cardinals are going to be a much improved team. And I think the Cardinals are always a challenge for the 49ers. They always play the Niners tough. And then week 4, home against the Jaguars. And I think that's very favorable for the 49ers to get the Jaguars and to play them at home. You never know what they're going to be, but Jacksonville, I think that's advantage Niners. Where the schedule gets tough is right here. It's week 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's the toughest stretch of the Niners' schedule for the year. Week 5 is Rams at SoFi, Thursday night football. It would be a very favorable home crowd for the Niners because they travel so well. But the Rams are good, and Stafford will be the best quarterback they've faced all year, and that's week 5. So then they come back week 6 at the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. This might be the only warm weather or hot weather or sticky weather game that they really play. October 12th in Tampa is still blistering hot and all kinds of humidity. I mean, that's going to be a weather game. I mean, that's going to be a hot weather game. It's not as bad as playing Tampa, in week 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd rather have them in week 6. But, man, if you can avoid Florida in September and October, you'd be better off for it. So October 12th against a pretty good Buccaneers team on the road, that's the second game of the tough stretch. Where I think the stretch gets kind of a little tougher, where nobody's really banking on it getting tougher, is week 7. Because the Niners then get the Falcons in a Sunday night game. And it's funny, I saw Demo Lenore already tweeted out to Ray McLeod, who's now a member of the Falcons, no catches allowed, Ray. So, but that's Michael Penix. And I think Michael Penix is going to be a star. And I think Michael Penix is going to emerge as a star this year. And I think the Falcons are my NFC team outside of the Niners that I think is going to be a real surprise team. I like Penix. I like Penix a lot. I think he's got as good an arm as anybody. I think him and Daniels are going to be the two best quarterbacks from that draft. I thought Atlanta was smart to draft him. I liked the way they brought him along behind Kirk Cousins and then handed him the job. And, Michael Penix is probably as good an arm as any quarterback in the NFL. He's a lefty. He's young. But, man, I just really see the Falcons as a team that is going to be very, very difficult. Very difficult. So I think that's a tough game. Even though it's a home game, Penix throwing to Drake London, Pitts. They got Bijan Robinson. I mean, there's a lot to like there. They've got a pretty good offensive line. They've rebuilt their defensive line. They added two really good safeties in Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman. They added two really good outside rushers and James Pierce and Jalen Walker. I mean, the Falcons, I think, are good. The Falcons, I think, are going to be a problem. So that's week 7. Week 8 is then C.J. Stroud and the Texans, but you got to play them at their place. And, it's obviously a dome, so there's no worry about the weather in Houston. But, still, the Texans are a good football team. So, I mean, that is a 4-week stretch in October. October, the schedule gets tough. At Rams, at Bucks, home against Penix and the Falcons, and then at Houston. So that, to me, is the hardest part of the schedule. If you can get to the middle part of the year, now here's where the schedule gets a little easier, but you're also talking about 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks of consecutive football without a bye. So you got to wonder at what point do the Niners start to get fatigued here in the season. So they get the New York Giants at MetLife in week 9. And, that's probably Jackson Dart. That's probably a rookie quarterback. You get the rematch with the Rams at Levi's week 10. And then you've got at Arizona week 11. So right now, I think these are all winnable games, but you got to figure there'll be injuries. There's going to be a fatigued 49er team. Some of these other teams will have already had their bye. The Niners will be going on 10, 12, 13 weeks of straight football without a bye, and you wonder if they'll throw a game in there because of the fatigue. But they get the Panthers in week 12 on Monday Night Football. Probably the biggest laydown of the year, right? You get one of the worst teams in football, and you get them at home, national TV, week 12. That's major advantage Niners. Then week 13 in Cleveland against the Browns. And the Browns, that could probably be the cold weather game of the year. And you never know about what the Browns are going to be at that point. Defensively, they're talented, but who knows? Then they get the week 14 bye, which at that point, that's rough. I mean, that's the latest bye the 49ers have ever had since the advent of the bye. Week 15, they're home against the Titans and Cam Ward. Week 16, they're at Indy. Week 17, they get the Bears on Sunday Night Football. In week 18, it's either going to be a Saturday or a Sunday against Seattle. And I just think you look at that schedule, that's a very favorable schedule. It really is. 0 games against teams coming off the bye. Last year, the Niners had 4 games against teams coming off the bye. The week 14 bye is a challenge because it's very late. The Niners do play some 10 a.m. games on the East Coast, but they're 15-12 in the 10 a.m. road starts under Kyle Shanahan. And they got 5 primetime games. October is going to be a major challenge. There's no question about that. October is going to be a big-time challenge. But if they can get through October, I think this thing looks very, very favorable for the 49ers. So, all right, we'll do this. We'll take a timeout. We'll come up next. Chase Sr. is going to join us from Chat Sports. We'll get his thought on the 49ers and the schedule as we continue with Niners Nightly on the Sports Leader.
Niners Nightly with Larry Krueger now continue on your proud home of 49ers football. KNBR, the sports leader.
Niners Nightly is sponsored by Redwood Credit Union. Whether you're dreaming of a new home, planning your children's future, or growing your business, Redwood Credit Union is a financial partner that feels like home. Learn more at redwoodcu.org, federally insured by NCUA.
Welcome back to Niners Nightly. Larry Krueger with you tonight on The Sports Leader. And joining us this segment is Chase Sr., host of the 49er Report on YouTube. He's a wealth of information, does a great job covering the Niners, and he's with us on the UMA guest line to break it all down. Chase, how are you?
Larry, I'm doing great. Always an exciting day in the NFL for fans and teams because once you get that schedule in your hand, you're able to look ahead to the 2025 season, start to forecast some wins, and give a little bit of insight as to how this team can fare. And I'll tell you this, I took a look at this schedule today when it was released, much easier than last year's slate, which was very, very difficult for a number of reasons.
Yeah, last year was brutal. Last year, the 49ers were given a schedule where they had the NFL's worst rest differential at minus 21 days. And I haven't, I'm sure Warren Sharp will crunch the whole thing and tell us exactly what the rest differential. But the 49ers have had 2 years in a row where they were among the worst rest differential teams in pro football. It actually does matter. And, I think it would have been criminal if they had been, on the negative rest side of the ledger for a third straight year. I would imagine they're significantly in the other direction this year.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing about that too, when you have that big rest disadvantage and you've been making all those deep runs in the playoffs where you've already naturally had shorter off seasons because you're playing into January and February, your whole offseason is disoriented a little bit because you're backed up and you're delayed. And so you don't have as much time to recover. You have to rush that offseason. Then the season gets here, and you're playing all these teams coming off bye weeks. So naturally, when you're on the West Coast, you're going to have to travel a little bit more, and the 49ers will have the fifth most travel miles in the National Football League this year. But I started looking at the numbers, and the difference in rest disadvantage from last year to this year is already, by my numbers, at a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks already, which really is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that is crazy. The only part of the schedule, there's a couple parts of the schedule that look daunting. One of them is the Week 14 bye. That's a very late bye. That's the latest bye the Niners have ever had. It may be a little bit of, can you get to the bye week? You know what I mean? That's going to be a challenge. I also kind of feel like there's a challenging run in there after the Jacksonville game, where it just suddenly looks like, okay, they play Jacksonville, then it goes at Rams on a Thursday night, at Bucks, and it's going to be sweaty in Tampa on October the 12th. Then they get the Falcons, and I kind of think that Michael Penix is going to be a star in the making, so I think Falcons could be quite a bit better than people think. And then you play at Houston. And then I guess you get the next week at the New York Giants, another road game. So I don't know. Granted, everybody's got to have some tough stretch, but at Rams, at Bucks, Falcons at home, at Houston, at Giants, four games in 5 weeks on the road, Falcons being the only home game. And as I said, I fear them a little bit. That to me is where the schedule gets a little challenging.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a difficult stretch. And I'll also say this. Niner fans last year had to endure a lot. First, there was the heartbreak with the Super Bowl and losing that game to Kansas City the way that the Niners did, when I thought they were the better team, and I thought they had so many self-inflicted wounds that cost them in winning that game, and that's why they lost. And dealing with that was just heartbreaking. And then last year's season was so disappointing. The offense was disjointed. The defense was bad. The special teams unit was the worst unit in the NFL. There was a late season collapse, and it felt as though the Niners never were able to find a groove, and they were injured a lot, and that resulted in a very disappointing 6-11 season. The schedule this year is the easiest in the NFL based upon the winning percentage for teams last year and the Vegas forecasted win totals for 2025. And so the Niners do have that going for them. And this whole rest advantage thing compared to the disadvantage last year, for a team that plays physical, for a team that under Kyle Shanahan, since he was hired in 2017, has been top 10 in injury rate every year except for 2023 when they made it to the Super Bowl. They were a top 5 healthiest team. I also think that's important. And I've pointed out, too, how 6 of the first 9 Niners games are on the road to start the year. But I think it's important to note that the travel is very doable. San Francisco to Seattle is a short flight for week 1. There's a long flight for week 2 to New Orleans, but then they have 2 games at home against the Cardinals and Jags, which I think are winnable. Then you have Thursday Night Football on a short week for week 5, but that's an easy flight from Santa Clara to Los Angeles to play the Rams. Then you have a mini bye week to travel to Tampa, which is one of those games that you mentioned to play the Buccaneers. And so that is a little bit difficult, but there is some wiggle room there with the travel.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the late bye week's interesting. Seattle, I thought, is interesting to get. There's been years where the Niners have played them 2 times in 3 weeks, and now they're playing them week 1 and week 18. What do you think? Do you think that's an advantageous matchup for the Niners, or do you not like the bookend of the season with Seattle?
I like that, actually. I don't like when a divisional team has to play another divisional team, for instance, 2 times in 3 weeks. And over the last few years, I feel as though there's been an increase of that for teams across the NFL. For instance, I was looking at the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. They played the Giants 2 times in 3 weeks, and they played the Commanders 2 times in 3 weeks to end the season. And I just hate that. All those divisional games have a lot of implications. They're usually close and physical because there's a lot of bad blood between those teams. And I'd rather have them spread out a little bit. And I like this for San Francisco because Seattle has always been a very difficult team going up against them. Mike McDonald's defenses can cause Kyle Shanahan some problems. We've seen that with Seattle in his debut year last year. We saw it with the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas a couple of years ago. And so week 1, week 18, I like it. Seattle is a very intriguing team going into this year. They really did have a makeover offseason, traded away Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, released Tyler Lockett, signed Sam Darnold, signed Dexter Lawrence. I really like what they did in the NFL draft, getting some really good players who I like, Gray Zabel, Nick Emanwari, Elijah Arroyo, Damian Martinez. And so that team going into this year is definitely going to look different, but they've been molding it to the liking of their new head coach and Mike McDonald going into year 2.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, McDonald's is a good coach. I think Seattle in year 2, it could, if McDonald could be quite a bit better. Especially now, it'll be interesting to see, Geno out, Darnold in, what Seattle looks like top to bottom with a new quarterback. I think it's going to be interesting now that DK's out of there as well. They've had quite a bit of turnover. The other big story of the day outside of the schedule in Ninerland is the Niners signed number 1 pick Mikael Williams. He signs a 4-year deal for $24.9 million, $14.7 million signing bonus. And so the Niners, this was like in the years past, they were rookie holdouts. And before they had the rookie scale and everything was kind of slotted, you'd see rookies often holding out. And it seems like rookies were involved in a lot of contentious long-term holdouts. That's no longer the case. And I don't know who made that change in the CBA, but to me, it does the rookies a much better. They were done a disservice before, being put into like a really tough negotiation window before they ever played. Now it seems like it's pretty slotted. It's pretty routine. There's not a lot of wiggle room. There's not a lot of negotiation room. And I think at the end of the day, it's probably advantage players because a holdout of your rookie year pretty much kills your whole season.
Yeah, I agree. And you saw it with the Cincinnati Bengals. Shamar Stewart wasn't even practicing at the start of rookie minicamp, whereas the Niners, they had the rookies who were healthy. They were ready to go. And Mikael Williams gets a fully guaranteed nearly $25 million contract, including almost $15 million in signing bonus on that 4-year deal. And, of course, because he was a first-round pick, the Niners going into year 5 or year 4 will have the opportunity to exercise that 5th-year option. I've really warmed up on the pick, too, by the way. I'm really excited for Mykel Williams. I think that you saw at rookie minicamp that his NFL body is ready to go. His length is going to be a problem. And I think that if he can add to his pass rush arsenal, which right now is a little bit raw, he's already going to help the Niners rush defense right from the jump. And I think that he's going to be a high-level impact player, start from week one. And I saw something interesting on Twitter this morning from Mitchell Schwartz, the former longtime offensive lineman in the NFL, who's a really good player. And he was asked, what's the hardest trait to defend against when you're going up against edge rushers? And he said a bull rush, because you can plan for speed moves and other moves, but if that defensive end just has a lot of power and you get bulldozed, there's nothing that you can do about it, and it's going to be a long day in that game and that matchup. And that's what Mykel Williams has right from the jump, with the size, the physicality, the power to his game, and he's only 20 years old, so I think that he can continue to get stronger and better as a player.
You know, the thing about Williams that's interesting is that if you go watch the percentage breakdowns of where Kirby played him on the defensive line, they played him inside a lot. And I think it's probably just because it's hard to find guys with size, even at the college level, and they probably found more guys off the edge than they had guys inside. They used Mykel as an interior rusher. So I think that probably suppressed his sack total. Then the fact that he played about 30% of the snaps, because Georgia plays a relatively deep rotation, I think that element suppressed his sack total. Now, and if you looked at, to me, where he looked best were the reps when he was rushing wide, and he's such a strong guy that, you can stun him and you can play these games inside and outside and line him up in and inside and stun him outside and twist him in and just all kinds of different things you can do with him. But I think if you line him up in the wide nine and give him a lot of snaps out wide, I think you're going to see that sack production that you didn't see at Georgia. I think you're going to see it because, you got to think on this line, Bosa's going to command the doubles. This guy's going to get one-on-ones. He's 35-inch arms. He's got unbelievable power. I think if you get him out there in open spaces where he doesn't need as many moves, he doesn't have an arsenal of moves, there's no doubt. But if you get him out there in the wide nine, I think his sack numbers are going to go way up. I would say 8 or 9 sacks his rookie year is realistic.
That would be tremendous, and I think his positional versatility is something that fans should be excited about. You think about some of the players who Chris Kocurek, the Niners defensive line coach, has been able to maximize and resurrect their careers. Charles Omenihu, Arden Key, Cleveland Ferrell, they were all looked at as busts in some way, shape, or form before coming to the Niners, and then they flourished with San Francisco because they could play inside, they could play outside. Then they left the Niners, and all of those players got paid pretty handsomely. And so Mykel Williams is a player who can play inside, he can play outside, and while he might not have the plethora of pass rush moves that Nick Bosa has, who is an absolute student of the game as far as his technique as a pass rusher with his ability to win in a variety of ways, when you're playing in the wide nine and you're playing defensive end, what do you have in this scheme? You have a longer runway because of the wide nine, and that longer runway is going to allow Mykel Williams to use his 4.7 speed, and with that length and with that power, he's going to be able to generate that velocity trying to get to the quarterback.
This is the first time I've talked to you on KNBR since the draft. We did a stream on the YouTube last week, but give me your thoughts on the draft. I thought it was an interesting draft. The first 5 picks were all about plugging up the run D, Mykel Williams, Big Alfred Collins, Nick Martin, Upton Stout, C.J. West. But if that's all they did, that would have been pretty good. But they also got running back depth. They got a developmental quarterback, some speed at wide receiver, a proven return guy, some interior O-line depth, and maybe a fast free safety sleeper that they can start in Marcus Siegel. What do you think? What's your takeaway from the Niners 2025 draft haul?
How awesome is this, Larry? The NFL pretty much has a stranglehold on America to the point where it's become a 12-month league at this point that demands attention pretty much year-round. And we get to talk about the schedule release. We still get to talk about the NFL draft, which was at the end of April. And this is a popular topic right now because people are saying the NFL should have a draft lottery like the NBA. The NFL doesn't need to take any notes from the NBA. And no, I know that you're with me. NFL doesn't need to adopt a draft lottery. But this is the glorious nature of the NFL, is that there's always something to talk about, and fans are always engaged. And so, yeah, the NFL schedule comes out today. That's awesome. As far as the NFL draft, I believe there are still so many relevant, juicy, and interesting things to talk about. And you think about this Niners draft class, right? Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, C.J. West, Nick Martin, Upton Stout. These are all players who have such fascinating athletic traits, who all have a history of stopping the run very well at the college level. And so I thought Robert Saleh's influence on the defensive side of the ball was everywhere throughout this draft, and I'm okay with that because he does a really good job of identifying and maximizing defensive personnel. The Niners clearly wanted to fix what has been a very porous rushing defense over the last couple of years. And when you can't stop the run, it does affect your pass game, which we also saw the Niners struggle with that last year. And so I really like the defensive players who they took in this draft, and I think that the Niners might end up starting 5 rookies of this draft class. I think that Alfred Collins and C.J. West can start at defensive tackle, and Mykel Williams can start at defensive end. Why? Because they're the best players at those spots, in my opinion, already, and they have NFL body types that are ready to go and translate to the next level. I think that Upton Stout is going to be a player who will remind a lot of people of Diamador Lenore or K'Wan Williams, who's a nasty, very aggressive slot corner who runs 4-4, who's not afraid to pop guys against the run, and he's going to bring a lot of swagger to this team. Nick Martin is a player who reminds me of an Azeez Al-Shire or a Dre Greenlaw with the way that he plays like he's shot out of a cannon. And so love what the Niners did on the defensive side of the ball. I wish they addressed offensive line a little bit earlier, but Connor Colby seems to be a really good scheme fit, and there's a lot to like with what he did at Iowa. As far as Jordan Watkins, this guy ran 4.3 at Ole Miss. He was one of the more explosive wide receivers in college football last year. Once Trey Harris got hurt for Ole Miss, he became their number one, and he doesn't drop the football. From rookie minicamp, I was so surprised at how built he is with his lower half. So he has some really strong legs. He tracks the ball well. Junior Bergen is a very explosive punt return guy who the Niners got in the 7th round. Curtis Rourke can layer it and throw the ball with touch. So there's a lot to like with this Niners draft class, and there's a lot to like with what they did in 2024. And so San Francisco has said, we want to build through the draft. We want to get younger. Well, if they knock this draft out of the park like they did, I thought, in 2024, the future of this organization is bright because you have a lot of young, healthy, hungry players who are cost-controlled assets, which can help you rebuild a little bit on the fly.
You know, one of the things I thought they really took away from this draft with Jordan Watkins and then signing this kid Isaiah Nayer from Nebraska after the draft, they actually got some real speed at receiver. I mean, they're kind of a plodding football team without a lot of speed. I mean, Jacob Cowing was their speed threat, and, you know, he's only 170 pounds. He had a hard time getting on the field. I know he'll get stronger. I know he'll get better. But they had to have some real guys. I mean, as far as some guys with some significant NFL bodies. And you mentioned Watkins. I mean, Watkins, 4.37, did it in the SEC, very productive, very quick, makes plays down the field. I really like him, and I think he can contribute right away. And this kid Nayer made the play of the minicamp. I mean, I don't know if I don't think you probably saw it because it was probably nobody caught it, but he basically is a 6'4" guy with 4.4 speed with 35-inch arms and 40-inch vertical. He got loose down the sideline chase. They threw him the ball. I think it might have been Tanner Mordecai. I think he led him, and he led him by a step or two, and I was like, oh, this is setting up beautifully because I want to see this kid led because he does have the great speed and the arm length and the 40 and the vertical and the whole deal. And sure enough, Isaiah Nayer, dead sprint, extends with the right hand, brings it in for the beautiful catch, probably the most exciting play of the minicamp. That guy's got a lot of size and speed. He looks very much like Randy Moss. I'm not saying he's Randy Moss, but he looks like Randy Moss. And he looked like Randy Moss last week at the minicamp. Watkins and Nayer, to me, are kind of the surprise, pleasant surprise of the draft. If you had a pleasant surprise of the draft, who would you go with?
I just think Upton Stout's going to be able to come in and play really good football right from the jump. He led all cornerbacks in the gauntlet at the NFL Combine. He led all cornerbacks in bench press reps at the NFL Combine. He ran a 4.4, and I think this allows the Niners to use their corners in a way that makes their defense the best unit that they can be, where Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green are on the outside, and then you put Upton Stout in the slot. And he will provide sticky coverage with that speed. He's very aggressive. He's really good against the run, and he's quick. I mean, he gets in and out of his cuts in such a seamless fashion. And so I know that he's 5'8", under 190 pounds, and he's a tinier player. But a lot of people said that about Diamador Lenore. A lot of people said that about K'Wan Williams. Both of those players either were, and in Lenore's case, are really good players. Lenore is playing at a Pro Bowl type of level. And Renardo Green is a guy who last year was one of the highest graded cornerbacks in all of football. And so this Niners secondary is going to be a little bit younger, but I'm really excited to see what they can do. And I think they're going to be the beneficiary with their better play of this Niners defensive line, which is going to be more stout against the run. And maybe they don't generate a lot of sack numbers, but because they have some physical freaks up there following this draft, they're at least going to be able to push and collapse the pocket a little bit. And in stopping the run, it's so important because last year, the Niners defense so often was in third and shorts. And it led to so many easy conversions. And that's why the Niners were one of the worst third down defenses in the NFL. If you're better against the run, Larry, the offense that you're going up against is going to be in more third and mediums, third and longs. And then your defensive line can pin their ears back a little bit, and then you can drop 7 back in coverage, and that's when the secondary can kind of go to work without having to be so taxed on that back end. And so cumulatively, I just think with more better athletic personnel and better coaching, we're going to see this Niners defense really turn it around. But to answer your question, really excited about Upton Stout.
Couple last thoughts before we say goodbye. ESPN has linebacker as the Niners' biggest need post-draft. In their power rankings, they had the 49ers 15th overall, so middle of the pack. I don't know. I don't know if I would agree with that or not. What do you view as the biggest 49er need coming out of the draft?
I think it's kind of casual for somebody to say it's a big need. I think that when you think about this Niners linebacking core, I would more so pin it as them being a little bit more unproven as compared to it being a need. You have Fred Warner in the middle, and he's the best linebacker in the game. Then those other 2 starting spots, unproven guys. It's going to be Nick Martin, who you took out of Oklahoma State. Can D. Winters lock down one of those other roles? You sign Luke Gifford, who's been a really good special teamer. You have Tatum Bethune. You have Jalen Graham. And so it's not the deepest room, but I think it is a room that has a lot of upside. And for Winters, we're talking about a guy who plays the game in a very entertaining way. He ran a 4.4 940 in the pre-draft. That shows up with how he plays, like his hair is on fire. He's added some weight. He was a little bit small coming into the league at 221 pounds. But sneakily last year, a lot of people wouldn't realize this, but D. Winters was excellent in coverage. He had a coverage grade of 80. That was 6th among 189 off-ball linebackers in the NFL. Now, that did come on 180 coverage snaps, which ranked 73rd at that position. But if Winters can make a leap, and if Nick Martin can play right from the jump, and Nick Martin is a guy who 2 years ago in 2023 led college football in solo tackles, had triple-digit tackle numbers, 16 TFL, 6 sacks, and a couple of pass breakups. I think that he can play from the jump, too, if not contribute on special teams. So do you go out and do you sign a C.J. Mosley? He has familiarity with Robert Saleh. I wouldn't be against that, but I think this Niners room does have some intrigue at that linebacker spot.
2 guys I got to ask you about before we say goodbye. Andre Dillard. The Niners signed him. He was in Philly. He went to Green Bay. He was a first-round pick. I kind of think that Dillard may still have his best football ahead of him. He's very fast for a big guy. He's not hurt. His body hasn't betrayed him. It didn't work out in Philly. He wasn't ready to play coming out of Wazoo. I do feel he's gotten some good coaching in Philly and in Green Bay, and I think he might be about to play some better ball. What was the word on him? What was the word on Dillard in Philly? Give us a scouting report on Andre Dillard, because I'm somewhat intrigued, more so with him than Petit Frere or even DJ Humphries. DJ Humphries, I think, body's betraying him. Petit Frere just lacks power to anchor against bull rushers. And if you can't anchor against bull rushers, it's kind of game over. But what do you think of Dillard?
Yeah, Dillard is a really interesting player. You know, he played under Mike Leach at Wazoo, and that is not the easiest program to scout offensive linemen within, because the air raid offense is difficult to gauge how good these offensive linemen are, and sometimes they're put in really difficult positions. And so he goes to the Eagles, and I think the Eagles took him at a time where they were looking for that future left tackle. Lane Johnson had gotten hurt. They tried to play him at right tackle, and Andre Dillard declined, and he said, I can't really do it. It's like having to write with your other hand. And then he was dealing with some temper tantrum immaturity issues early on. But then Jeff Stoutland got a hold of him, and I think Stoutland's the best offensive line coach in the NFL. He started to play better ball. And when he did end up filling in as a starter for a little while, he played pretty good. And then a year where he was going to be the full-time starter, he tore his biceps muscle. And so that really derailed him. Then he came back and played okay. He goes to Tennessee, got paid a lot of money, and he was one of the worst and lowest graded offensive tackles in football. They cut him free after giving him a lot of dough. Then he goes to Green Bay, barely saw the field. And so with quality coaching in a right spot and position in a good organization, I think that Andre Dillard can play better football, but the jury is completely out, and he's just been so Jekyll and Hyde. It's really hard to gauge who he'll be. But the Niners do have a need at backup tackle and swing tackle, that's for sure.
Last one, Gabe Davis. Niners took a look at him. He's in New York right now. He played for Daboll. He was now with the New York Giants. He's coming off a torn meniscus. Best known for his 4-touchdown 2021 playoff performance against Kansas City in the divisional round for Buffalo. He's only 26. He's coming off that meniscus injury, though. What do you think? If you're the Niners, should the Niners go for Gabe Davis? Do you think they'll land him?
Yeah, I think he's a really, really good fit. I think he's a really good fit for the Niners. You know, he's big. He can run really well. He's very physical. He can win on the outside. And for being 220 pounds, he ran a 4.5 in the pre-draft process. And if you look at his yards per catch numbers and PFF grades on catches of 20-plus yards, every year that he's been in the league, those PFF grades on 20-plus yard throws, it's been over 96 every year except last year. Now, the Jags did let him go because of a knee injury and a failed physical, so the Niners would have to check that out. But he's physical. He can win on the outside. He's been a touchdown machine. He has nearly 30 touchdowns in his career since being a 4th-round pick out of Central Florida, and he's a willing run blocker and an awesome teammate. With the Giants, though, he's visiting there, that's of note, because he thrived under Brian Daboll. And then who was in that front office as an assistant GM when Daboll was there? Joe Shane, who's the Giants GM now. And who's the Giants quarterback? Russell Wilson, who is limited in a sense now where he throws a lot of long balls along the sideline, and that's where Gabe Davis thrives. So I think the Niners would be a good fit. I think the Giants need him more, and because of that, they might pay him a little bit more than what the Niners are willing to pay him.
He's Chase Sr., the host of 49er Report on YouTube. It's a great channel, Chat Sports. Check him out. Chase, awesome to rap with you, man. We'll do it again.
Always great to connect. Thanks for having me.
Chase Sr., as I said, the host of the 49er Report on YouTube via Chat Sports. All right, we'll come back. We'll have our 49er stat of the day. It's next on Niners Nightly on the Sports Leader.
From the O'Donnell Financial Group Sports Desk. Learn more at odfigroup.com. O'Donnell Financial Group, because planning is a process, not a product.
Your San Francisco 49ers 2025 schedule dropped today. And by the looks of it, the West might be ours once again. Let Larry know which games you chalk up as wins or losses by calling in at 415-808-KNBR, the schedule leader.
This is where you get your faithful fix. Niners Nightly with Larry Krueger keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
And welcome back. Larry Krueger with you on Niners Nightly. And now we can open up the phone lines and take a couple of your calls. 808 KNBR is the phone number. And, what do you think of the schedule? I mean, if you're a 49er fan, do you like the schedule? Last year was such a brutal schedule. This year, I kind of like it. I kind of like the way it looks. I think it looks favorable. I think, I don't know if we'll do the exercise of win, loss, but I think it's a double-digit win type season for the 49ers, despite the fact that they rebuilt their defensive line, said goodbye to a number of veterans, didn't have a huge, free agent crop of stars that they signed. I still think with this schedule, and with Brock Purdy, playing, hopefully a good brand of football this year, I think the 49ers are a 10-win type team, maybe an 11-win type team. So I'd love to hear from you. 808 KNBR is the phone number. How many wins for the Niners this year? Couple other thoughts, too. That I saw ESPN's power rankings, and, the power rankings don't really give the Niners a whole lot of credit here. They really don't. But I'd love to know, every year in the NFL, there's a surprise team, a team that maybe people aren't banking on that comes out of nowhere and surprises and plays really well. I think the 49ers have a chance to be that surprise team. I'm looking at the ESPN post-NFL draft power rankings. This is how they have them ranked. 1 through 5, Kansas City, Philly, Buffalo's 3, Detroit's 4, Baltimore's 5. Those are the top 5 teams in football according to ESPN. As you noticed, no 49ers. All right, 6 through 10 right now according to ESPN's power rankings. Washington at 6, the Rams at 7, Green Bay at 8, Minnesota at 9, Cincinnati at 10. Once again, no 49ers. No 49ers in the top 10. All right, let's take a look at the third group of 5 teams. 11 is the Chargers. 12 is Tampa. 13 is Houston. 14 is Denver. And coming in at 15 are the 49ers. Now, that to me seems a little on the low side. By the way, behind the Niners, Seattle at 16, Pittsburgh at 17, Atlanta at 18, Dallas at 19. But if I say to you, who will be the surprise team? Who's the bust-out team of 2025? Who do you go with? I mean, and it's interesting. I can see a couple teams. I'm going to give you a couple teams. I think the Niners are a decent option. Why? Because Kyle Shanahan's been to multiple Super Bowls. Brock Purdy has started a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy will be coming off of a year where he gets his contract. According to Kubiak, the offensive coordinator, Clay Kubiak, he says Purdy's had an awesome offseason. And then he also said that CMC is looking really, really good. So to me, if you want the Niners to be good, and I know we all do, CMC having a great offseason and Brock Purdy having a great offseason, I would say that's at or near the top of the list of traits that we're looking for from the 49ers to ensure that they're going to have a great season. So I like the Niners with this schedule and with Purdy back and Shanahan kind of looking rejuvenated and them having a somewhat deep draft class and kind of rebuilding their defensive front, bringing back Robert Saleh, adding a better special teams coordinator. I think the Niners are one of the surprise teams. Okay, they're not the only surprise teams, though. Who else do I like as a surprise team? I kind of like the Raiders to be a surprise team. Ashton Genty, Pete Carroll, you had a real quarterback in Geno Smith. I don't think the Raiders have had a real quarterback in a while. I mean, look at those weapons. You've got Geno handing it to Genty, throwing it to Brock Bowers. I loved what they did in the draft at receiver. I mean, you already had Jacoby Myers, but you added Jack Betch and Dante Thornton from Tennessee, Zachary Franklin from Illinois. I mean, those are three pretty decent receivers. I think they added a couple good offensive linemen. Now, the Raiders' defense is bad, and the Raiders' defense is still a work in progress. And I would imagine their defense is going to be bad going forward. But, I mean, Chip Kelly as the OC, Pete Carroll on the defensive side of the ball. You got Patrick Graham, who's a pretty good defensive coach as coordinator. You got weapons. You know, you got an NFL quarterback. I kind of like the Raiders to be a surprise team. I'll give you another team that I really like as a surprise team. I like the Atlanta Falcons. I like what I saw from Michael Penix, and I think the Falcons were smart to draft Penix. I mean, look what Atlanta now has. They have Michael Penix, who's got absolutely the best left arm I've ever seen. I mean, this is one of the best throwers of the football the league's ever seen. You got Bijan Robinson running the rock. I mean, he's got to be one of the better running backs in pro football. Receiver-wise, you have Drake London, who's a pretty good receiver. They brought in Jamal Agnew. They drafted Nick Nash from San Jose State. They still have Kyle Pitts. It's a pretty good offensive line. I know they lost Drew Dalmore, or I should say Drew Dalman, Chris Dalman's son, Drew Dalman, the former Stanford star, was in Atlanta, and he left in free agency. So that's a major loss. But that's still a very good offensive line. You've got some decent weapons. You got a great young quarterback. You got a fantastic running back. They just added Jalen Walker and to their defensive line, along with James Pierce, the Tennessee kid. So you got two electric edge rushers. Inside, they got David Onyemata and Ruka Rororo. Say that 3 times fast. They added some good safeties in Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts. It's a good young secondary. They got Kobe Bryant as an undrafted player. I thought that was a steal. So, I mean, I think the Falcons could be a really good team. So, to me, the surprise teams are the bust-out teams. Maybe Niners, maybe Raiders. Falcons, I think, make a lot of sense. Those are the teams I would say. In the NFC, Falcons, I think, are a bust-out team. I think who else could be a bust-out team? I think Commanders continue to get better. I think Seattle could be pretty good with Darnold. The teams that are going to backslide in the NFC, I think Minnesota. You take away Sam Darnold, and you're just going to say, "Oh, J.J. McCarthy, plug in there and just do what Darnold did." It's easier said than done. That's a very tough division. So I like Minnesota to backslide. I think Detroit's going to backslide. I really do. I think Detroit is losing their coordinators. Aaron Glenn's gone. He's a major leader there. You lose Ben Johnson. I thought their draft was okay. I kind of think that whole division, which last year looked like such a world beater with Vikings, Packers, the up and coming Bears, the Lions. I think that whole division takes a collective backslide. Minnesota doesn't have Darnold. I think the Bears are, a ways away. Detroit has lost quite a bit. And then Green Bay, I think the vibe's weird in Green Bay. I don't know if you saw any of the stories coming out of Green Bay after the minicamp, but Jaden Reed's complaining about how the rookie receivers, Savion Williams and Matthew Golden, how he wants to be the number one guy, and that these guys think they're going to be the number one guy. And there just seems like, I'm not sure what's going on there, but Love gives me some weird body language. I wonder sometimes about his relationship with the head coach. All those young receivers, and, it's like, who's going to take control? It's like a room full of, they got a ton of young weapons, but it's like almost too many. It's like they're looking for a true pecking order there. And I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of division, a lot of me stuff going on with Green Bay. So I don't know about Green Bay. I don't know about Minnesota. I don't know about Detroit. I don't know about Chicago. I think they all could somewhat backslide. But as far as, taking steps forward, I really like the Raiders. I like the Raiders to take a step forward. And if I had to go with another team, I kind of like what Denver's doing. I mean, look at Denver. Sean Payton, they go after Bo Nix. Bo Nix, I thought, had a pretty good year. Now they added R.J. Harvey. I mean, R.J. Harvey is a terrific running back. They added Evan Ingram, the tight end from Jacksonville. Decent offensive line. And, you've got Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. It's not the greatest receiving core of all time, that's for sure. But I love what Denver's got on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Vance Joseph is a really good defensive coordinator. You got DJ Jones and Zach Allen on their front. They drafted Savion Jones from LSU. I thought that was a really good get. They got Johnny Walker as an undrafted player. That's a great get. Adding Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw from the Niners, I thought gives them two really competitive, smart football players that go right in the middle of their defense. And then, does anybody have a better tandem of corners than Patrick Surtain and Shaddai Barron? Those guys are looking really, really good. So, all right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back with more. It's Niners Nightly as we take it to 7:30 on the Sports Leader.
Faithful, time to make some Niners noise on Niners Nightly with Larry Krueger on your proud home of 49ers football. KNBR, the sports leader.
And welcome back to Niners Nightly. Thanks to Cole LaPelt for producing tonight. Sorry for our technical difficulties. Also, thanks to Chase Sr. for being in the house and giving us a little breakdown. We're back with you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for another edition of Niners Nightly. Todd Husak's going to stop by. We got Earthquake Soccer bottom of the hour, but Matt Mayoko stopped by with Dirty Work, and we're going to let you hear a little bit of that conversation on the Niners right here.
We made the connection with Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bay Area. Matt, a Week 14 bye, is that your biggest surprise you see in the schedule?
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'd say the biggest surprise was just the lackluster opponents for those primetime games.
Yeah, right.
I mean, honestly, when I looked at the schedule, I was like, how many of those primetime games are even going to happen?
I know.
Because they're facing Carolina, they're facing Atlanta, Indy and Chicago.
Yeah, right.
Ugh. Yeah. In Indy, in Chicago, Week 17. Chicago should be improved, right? But they're also in the same division as the Lions and the Packers and the Vikings, so they might be out of it. And so, I don't know what the NFL was thinking. To me, there were like two really marquee non-division opponents, and it was Tampa Bay and it was Houston.
I agree.
And even those aren't like super marquee. But to have primetime games scheduled against Atlanta, Carolina, Indy, and Chicago, I don't get it, and I would be surprised if at least two of those games aren't flexed out.
Yeah, people were saying that in the text line just a few minutes ago, going, well, they flex those games often. I said, they flex games often, but oftentimes they're not going to do it to a team multiple times in multiple weeks. Two of the three, I think, are within 3 weeks of each other, a couple of the primetime games. The Rams one is early. It's a Thursday night game, so that's going to stand. The Atlanta one is a little bit odd.
The Atlanta one could stay just because at that point in the schedule,
Week 7 or something
NFL,
like that. Yeah.
The NFL has a restriction that they can only move two of those games off over, I think it's a 5 or 6 week period. So that one actually could stay. But as you get later on in the season, 49ers could have a good year and look at their schedule, and you would be surprised, I think, if they don't dramatically improve over last season. But they could still kind of carry their end of the bargain, but now they would have to rely on some pretty bad teams. Just looking at the Vegas win totals, 3 of those 4 teams are expected to be under 500. And I just can't see that an under 500 team having a primetime game that late in the year. And then the one team that is right down the middle, 8.5 victories is the total Vegas has for the Chicago Bears. But again, at that being Week 17, that has to have some playoff implications. And I would think that they would want playoff implications for both teams in order to keep that in its time slot at primetime Week 17.
Yeah, the opponents are definitely head-scratching, but as far as the Niners, when they finished 6-11 a year ago, getting 5 primetime matchups, I know the Niners are huge, Matt, but are you surprised the league gave them 5 primetime games to begin with?
Well, I thought it would. I knew that they'd want to get them on prime time because they do have a great following and they always get good ratings. But again, I would go back to it doesn't necessarily. I would say maybe mildly surprises me that they get 5. But what really surprises me is 4 of the 5 that they got. I mean, I could have seen Chicago earlier in the season when there's more kind of intrigue of what's Caleb Williams going to be like in year 2. But I don't know why they would have Chicago so late in the year when they're – because I think early in the season there's probably going to be a lot of optimism about them. But week 17, more than likely their season is going to be written. But if that was like a week 2 or 3 or 4 game, I'd be all in on that just because I think there is a fascination of, the improvements they've made, the new coach, Caleb Williams, year 2, will his game take a jump? So to me, that would have been a much more intriguing matchup very early in the year.
Talking to Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bay Area, joins us courtesy of the Uma guest line. Here's a note Tim just threw at me. The 49ers are playing 0 teams this year coming off of a bye.
Ooh.
Well, I guess it. What do they say about the squeaky wheel
gets the oil?
The grease?
Yeah, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, this schedule matches up really well for them, and that's interesting. I haven't had time to dive into it that deeply, but
Pearl got Josh Dubois of the AP, so a reliable source.
Yep.
Yeah.
A very much reliable source. So, after 2 straight years of having like almost historical deficits in rest compared to their opposition, you would think that the NFL would have like bent over backwards just to make sure that it wasn't 3 in a row. So that is something I'm sure the 49ers have been angling now for a couple of years to just kind of get on the plus side of that rest differential.
So, Matt, I mean, what do you make of the Week 14 bye? I looked it up. The last 3 seasons, they had a bye week, Week 9, which seems like the ideal spot you want a bye week, and I had no idea. This is the latest bye week they've ever had since 1990. I wasn't even aware that they didn't have bye weeks prior to 1990, but what do you make of such a late bye this season?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was just coincidence or not, but it as you noted, Week 9 bye week, each of the last 3 seasons before this year, and then the common denominator was they made it to the championship game in each of the seasons before that. So I don't know if they give a little, if they give the benefit to a team that plays well the previous year. It is late for the bye week, and I can guarantee you someone after week 13 will be saying, hey, the bye week is coming at the perfect time. I can guarantee it because they say that every year.
Yeah.
So that's my one prediction. The other part of it is if the 49ers can keep it together, stay healthy, and be where they expect to be, where they want to be, then that week 14 bye could help them because then it would give them a break, get them off their legs for the final 4 games of the season for, in essence, the stretch run of the season. So it could end up being a benefit. And, you also got to remember only one team out of each conference gets a bye heading into the playoffs. So it could work to their advantage because even the year they went to the Super Bowl, it just kind of felt like they lost something even in the playoffs. They didn't play super against the Packers or the Lions. They won those games and went to the Super Bowl, but it seemed like they kind of left their best football out there during the regular season, basically after that loss on Christmas night to the Ravens. They didn't play it that well. So maybe that's a benefit to just get them off their feet and get them rested for that stretch run and potentially heading into the playoffs.
I would say it's worth noting also, Matt, and personally, just as a fan, I'd rather have the bye late than have it early because, again, it gives yourself an opportunity to get some rest, especially if you're hoping for a playoff run and you're not going to be one of the only 2 teams in the NFL who ends up with a bye in the first round. Go ahead.
I was going to just say that it's almost like you don't know how the season is going to play out, but the longer you can hold off on having your bye, the better you can be. Mm-hmm. Just as long as you're able to stay healthy and kind of stay on pace. But if you're on a roll and you can keep pushing that bye week back, then I think that's advantageous to you.
I was saying to Derek, I think it's worth noting, though, that in the midst of the early part of the season, before they go, so after they play the Rams on Thursday night, they have one of those sort of mini buys that's built in. It's a Thursday night game, and at least it's still in California after you played 2 games at home, and then week 6 they go to Tampa, but it's 10 days off between those 2 games. So it is the sort of mini buy, and you get to play 3 straight weeks in California.
And also, that would be the one game, even before the schedule came out, when you look at it, that would be the one game to me that's probably the most difficult game on the schedule when you take into consideration what should be a pretty good team, certainly a playoff contender, as well as the travel aspect of it. So if they could have mapped out that, the mini bye week at any point, or the bye week, I guess, but because this is reality, it's the mini bye week, that's probably the perfect spot for them to have that back-to-back game of, the short turnaround facing the Rams, only an hour flight down to the Levi Stadium South, and then the longer week to get ready for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So to me, it seems like every year you look at the schedule for the 49ers and you go, man, that's a tough stretch. I mean, last year, the one that just jumped out was Green Bay and Buffalo on the road, back-to-back games.
Yep.
And there wasn't a person on the planet who thought the 49ers had any chance to beat Buffalo on the second end of that back-to-back. There's nothing like that on this year's schedule.
No, there's not. And I was even sort of pressed to find a tough stretch of games, and that's the one that you just mentioned. Week 5, I thought the 4-game stretch of Rams, Thursday night short week, then Buccaneers, I guess Falcons, and then Texans, like that 4-week window is kind of the one that I look at on paper as maybe the difficult stretch.
Yeah, when you look at like the travel part of it, it would be that game at Houston, a 10 a.m. West Coast start, followed by the game at New York, 10 a.m. West Coast start. And I haven't asked anybody, and I don't know if they would have even made a decision yet on that. But that would be the one back-to-back that would lend itself potentially to staying somewhere in the Eastern time zone.
Houston and New York, is that right?
Yeah. And I don't know that they would do that because they would be able to get back from Houston, probably, Sunday evening, West Coast time.
Yeah.
So I kind of doubt that they would do that. If the game at Houston were, say, a Sunday night game, like it probably should have been, then maybe yes. But I don't think it really lends itself this year to any of those week-long trips to the East Coast.
And then last one for you, Matt, before we let you go. Niners schedule is out, everybody. The 2025 schedule release happened just under an hour ago. The one other note here is that the Niners are going to open against Seattle in Seattle, close against Seattle at home. We don't know the date or time of that Week 18 game, which I think is sort of interesting. But as interesting or quirky to me is they will wrap up all the games against the NFC West with the exception of that Week 18 game by Week 11. They'll play everybody twice, Seattle once, and then Seattle the last game of the year. But from Week 12 until 18, no more division opponents.
Yeah, and they struggled within the division last year. I guess they struggled everywhere last year, but they only won the one game in the division last year, and that was against the Seattle Seahawks up there.
Right.
And so that's the one game that they won. They've had some success in recent years up in Seattle. They certainly went many years without having success, but when you look at it, 3 of the first 5 games are division opponents, and so that's a chance right there for them to, within those 3 games, to improve upon last year's win total within the division right off the bat. And yeah, it is very odd, and I keep checking Josh DeBell's Twitter feed because I don't know that I can remember a week, a first game against an opponent and a last game against the same opponent. So that is very interesting to see how those teams won't even be the same team.
That's what I mean. You'll be 2 totally different franchises, basically.
It won't even be worth their while to be looking at game film from week 1 because there will be so many different players out there.
It's like when the Giants wrapped up against the Dodgers in like July a couple of years ago. We're like, this new schedule stinks. Like, it's not playing the Dodgers again in the last 2 months of the season. Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, NBC Sports Bear. Great to talk to you on schedule release day, Matt. It's always sort of a fun day when you get to see how our weekends look for the remainder of the year, right?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And then next week, let's just start talking about the 2026 schedule. Why don't we?
We'll do. I want to get the Matt Mayoko mock on the 2026 schedule. Yeah, the Mayoko mock 1.0 on 2026. We'll do it next week. Matt, have a great night. We'll talk to you later, man.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, thanks, guys.
This is the flagship of Giants baseball. Double play! KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the sports leader. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.